Let me get this straight. You blew up a building.
2 CIs and the CEO of 22andU.
2 competing federal agencies with the same mission.
I don't understand why those Fed a-holes are so darn mean.
To protect the public from the scourge of dangerous misinformation.
You know those bum idiots. This is all them. We had a solid case.
The word entrapment, not even in their vocabulary.
The explosives we provided were fake.
Sworn to a duty to always tell the truth.
We have no indication at this time that this was a deliberate act.
We're all being transferred.
To where?
The only place currently with openings. Alaska.
Good morning.
Welcome to the office, huh?
And we got the retro feel. You know, the funny about federal buildings, they're all different, but they're still somehow all the same.
Oh, good morning, Agent Walker. At the coffee station. We actually drew straws before he got here, and I won, so we get to work together.
Let's get started. Let's see if we can't stir something up.
Let's give it a minute. I like to warm up my truth muscles a little coffee beforehand.
Well, what do you want to do first?
What do we have for a surveillance van?
Oh, wow. I got a Ford Explorer. We don't have a surveillance van.
Do you put many cases here?
Cases?
Yeah, cases. We're the tip of the spear when it comes to protecting American democracy.
You really believe this? You really believe that people posting crap online is going to cause our country to crumble?
I think the work that we do is important.
We don't have a surveillance van.
Me and some people got one. We've never needed one.
We need a surveillance van. We need a big case or a CI who can lead us to a big case.
What do you need the van for?
Surveillance.
CIs, or confidential informants, are the lifeblood of any good law enforcement agency. Public posts on social media are one of the best ways to find CIs. Agents would never use coercion or take things out of context to try and persuade someone to become a confidential informant.
New Taylor Swift single is absolute fire. I'm just seeing a lot of incendiary and violent language here.
Agents always need to be on their toes and ready to make snap decisions.
Is there anything I can do for you guys? Actually, David, there is something you can do for us.
Chicky nuggies.
Chicken nuggies.
What?
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. McDonald's cheeseburger.
Burger King.
Burger King cheeseburger.
Flame broiled.
And chicken nuggets.
Oh, baby, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be your beaver pilot. Said, honey, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be.
Awesome, right?
Is this a loner?
This thing's totally legit.
What is this? It's got windows!
All right, welcome to the show. It is Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, right? Is it not Tuesday? I think it is Tuesday. And we are kicking it here. We are in Alaska. And everything sounds okay. So pull that out. I am my own producer. So, if anything goes wrong, it's not my fault. It's the producer's fault. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, it'd be my fault then, wouldn't it? Shit. Always my fault. All right, welcome to the show. Yeah, I was talking to somebody today about the movie Idiocracy, and he's never seen the movie Idiocracy. So I made him say, you got to watch the movie Idiocracy, because that just kind of feels like the world we're living in right now. But hey. Today, let's just jump right into it. Today was the day I have been waiting for in this trial. This is the day I have been waiting for. And I didn't know it was going to come today. I didn't realize that today was going to be that day. But today was that day. Oh my goodness, today was that day. And what day might that be, you ask? The day when somebody finally stands up to Hank Scummy Brennan and puts him in his place. And yes, that day was today. Today was the day we got to see Hank Brennan put in his place. He got his ass kicked. He got put in a headlock and given a noogie. That's what happened. He got a noogie. It is that simple. Oh my God. What a day. What a day. So let's get into the morning, because this case is just gotten, oh my God, this case is just like I said, I have been waiting. I was saying, Patty, today was the day. I didn't know today was going to be the day when I got up, but today was the day that the trial said, come to me. We are going to kick some butt today. And a quick adjustment there of the camera. I was waiting for somebody to kick Hank's ass, and that happened. So let's go back a few days ago. Actually, well, wait. But let's go ahead and look at, I want to look at the beginning of this morning, because we had some argument this morning, and we don't normally go over this, but this is kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm sharing.
Okay, good. All right, so the order I'd like to do is, Mr. Jackson, yesterday you were going to take a look at any photographs you intend to put in with Dr. Laposata. All right, can I just, are you all in agreement, or are you just looking at them now, Mr. Brennan?
Let's get, so this was kind of, so they wanted to get in the dog bite episode, that she could testify to dog bites, right? And so Brennan come up and said she doesn't have the experience, and so actually let's go back, because AJ showed, oh yeah.
They would absolutely ask the question. So the Commonwealth got to have it both ways. They got to ask Dr. Russell about Dr. Laposata and imply that Dr. Laposata had opinions about dog bite wounds. And then they have it the other way, which is, let's ask the court if she will exclude Dr. Laposata from testifying about the very issue that they brought up in front of Dr. Russell.
Good point.
That cannot stand. That ensures, it reasonably ensures
So
that the jury will misrepresent or misunderstand.
They brought out that
the import of why we're not asking Dr. Laposata about her expert opinion. Regarding Dr. Laposata's credentials, we went back through, specific to the court's questions yesterday, her resume. There are no fewer than 13 classes, 13, that she has taught specific to wound pattern recognition that have included dog bite recognition. On page 7, she was the course director for medical legal death investigation. That was in 2013. She taught about dog bite recognition in that case, or in that course. She's a thesis advisor for Master of Science graduate medical school.
only in Bev's courtroom would this not be an expert. Only there. Only there.
Taught about dog bites.
There's no other place in the world where she would not be a...
Course 205, taught about dog bites. Member of Quality Assurance Committee, Training Division of Trauma and Surgical Critical Care, teaching on the issue of wound recognition, animal bites, and specific to dog bites. Pediatric Forensic Pathology, Texas Homicide Symposium. She was a presenter in 1989. She taught about the issue of dog bites as it relates to...
All about dog bites. Dog bites, dog bites, dog bites, right?
Dog bite recognition. These are all...
Okay, so Brennan comes up and says some shit.
Russell as a qualified expert, and that's exactly what Dr. Laposata testified yesterday she utilized and utilizes in coming to her opinions and conclusions. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. Dr. Laposata...
Okay, so...
Inadmissible here. they know is not admissible, and they use their witnesses to introduce otherwise inadmissible hearsay. Dr. Russell took the stand, and she was led into answers where she was vouching for her own credibility. Dr. Russell promoted herself not only as an expert, but through the defense's questions, as virtually the only expert in America who has the expertise to give this type of opinion.
That's not what she said. That's what you said, Brendan. That's what you said. I can't wait. You get your ass kicked.
It is the defendant's tactics that opened these doors that believed that the bites were consistent with that she saw anything relative.
Already glitchy.
All right. So AJ gets back up. This is a very interesting. This shows you that Bev does not have control of her court any longer. It's not there. It's gone. Any kind of semblance of control that she had is gone.
Speech. Mr. Brennan literally just said, I didn't elicit any information about dog bites. I just asked about her experience. Question by Mr. Brennan. That's not what I said. Excuse me. No, I'm not going to.
So,
No, I'm not going to.
I heard what Mr. Brennan said. You don't need to tell me what Mr. Brennan said, but go ahead to your
How about
argument.
if I quote his words? How about that? Question. And so you think of all those forensic pathologists, medical examiners, and you think qualification experience itself is not enough to qualify somebody to give an opinion on a photograph about the genesis of a wound related to dog bites? The question was specific to dog bites. That's how he introduced the subject matter to Dr. Russell. Then his next question was, have you ever heard of a doctor named Dr. Laposata? Those were his words. Then he goes on, I think he also just said that he...
All right. So Bev's she's still an idiot. So they go and they fight. The defense does not give up, right? They've said it in the past. We're not going to give up, and they don't give up. They do not give up. They never give up. And so only in Bev's court could this person who is taught about dog bites not be qualified as an expert on dog bites. All right. So let's see.
Your rights are saved. I'm going to give an instruction regarding burden shifting. So.
Not allowing it, you get an instruction.
I think the conduct is outrageous. And I don't think that the instruction can do anything except bring the point home yet.
Okay.
But if the court is not willing to allow her to testify to her full opinion to immediately do scientific service, so she can at least testify that she reviewed the arm, looked at the arm, that's consistent with an animal. And at least split the baby.
I will do that. I will allow that, yes. Over the Commonwealth's objection.
And I'd look to have the because if you want to allow a consistent opinion with the dog.
No, Mr. Jackson said animal.
I'll leave it at animal if that's what I can get. I'll take what I can get.
In her experience, Mr. Jackson, you have to lay a foundation. In her experience, saying animal bites.
She can't testify that it was a dog. She can testify that she thinks it's an animal bite. Only in Bev's court. Only in this place.
This is consistent with what she has seen in an animal bite.
That's insane.
I'll come to sidebar before I display anything. That will include a representation of what an animal jaw looks like.
No, it will not.
Why is that?
So
no visuals, just that one sentence that's consistent with what she has.
That's all she gets. You defense, you don't get to put on a defense. You get this one sentence, and that's all you get for your defense. You can say it was an animal bite, and you only get one sentence. This is insane. This is insanity. Brennan did the holes in the sweatshirt joke yesterday, which was a complete joke, complete introduction of evidence that doesn't exist, right? Just make up evidence whole cloth. Like, here's some evidence, right? Oh, God.
An animal bite. A brief foundation.
I don't understand how there isn't a professional, there's a professional organization that is supposed to watch out for this in Massachusetts. And we get nothing. We get this. We get these rulings that just.
Because I'm letting that statement in. As long as she has said, as long as she testifies that she has seen animal bites over the years. That's it.
Absolutely hated that. You get the one line. Why? Because I said so. Because I said so. Like we're a bunch of toddlers in here and she's just mommy. Like she's not bound by rules and standards. But she just has her own judgment and authority. While we were talking about the king, this old idea, the king's authority flows straight from God, so he can do no wrong. Real similar kind of attitude we see here in this court, because I said so. Nobody gives a shit what you think.
Yeah, because I said so.
Your job is to enforce the law, not to make it up from the bench. And you know perfectly
exactly
well that's
right.
what Mr. Jackson is asking for. What's your legal
Oh, just wait. We'll get there. We're not going to do too much of AJ's direct because he does get it in. So let's go ahead and go to the where he's talking to her. So let's go ahead and just get that. He gets in a lot of information about his head wound. They talk more about the brain. They talk about and I'm just going to I want to get to this cross. He talks about the ulcers in the stomach. She basically says he didn't suffer from hypothermia. He didn't have frostbite. So hypothermia is out, right? So that was part of her testimony today. And then this.
Yes, photographs are very important to understand those injuries.
Do you believe that there is a pattern? Were the photos in Mr. O'Keefe's case useful in coming to opinions and conclusions concerning his injuries altogether?
Yes.
What about the injuries to his right arm?
Yes, those photographs are very important to understand those injuries.
Do you believe that there is a patterned injury on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes, there is a pattern injury there.
Have you ever
I got it.
either being taught or teaching?
Hopefully, if I share everything correctly, I got this set up today. I got this set up.
Pattern injuries as they relate to animal wounds, generally?
Oh, absolutely. Very common.
Do animal wounds include both claws and teeth, dentin?
Yes.
So bite marks and claw marks might be two different types of patterned wounds that you may see in your evaluation, just in general?
Correct, because when an animal approaches the body, there may be damage from the claws and also from the mouth.
I got it all set up
Do you
today.
expect to see punctate wounds as well as linear abrasions?
Yes.
Do you expect to see certain bite patterns as well?
Yes.
You see those on John's arm?
What types of injuries, let's talk about animals in general, what types of injuries do animals produce on the skin of human beings?
Well, animals can produce, if you're talking about where you get parallel scrapes of the skin, or you can see a pattern from the jaw configuration of the animal called a pattern injury. Inside, as the canines move in a horizontal pattern or a vertical pattern, the space between them can change. The other thing you see in a animal, so you look for punctures, you look for paired gouges, which would be the canines, and then you look for arced patterns of little.
From an animal bite or claw mark?
No, wound is a wound due to cutting from a sharp object.
Would you expect to see incised wounds from an animal bite or claw mark?
Here we go.
No,
So
they don't
let's
cause-
get to it.
Right arm. Were you able to determine from your review of the medical records whether the injuries that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm were pre-mortem or post-mortem?
They were, yes, I can determine that. They were inflicted prior to death.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the wounds that you see, the pattern injury that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm, is consistent with an animal bite or claw marks?
Yes, it is, very much.
Thank you. You can take that down.
Bam. There we go. Okay. So then we get in the we do go through, like I said, the
Damaging to the Commonwealth.
and then we get into a little bit of vehicle stuff.
You indicated, have you performed autopsies specifically on individuals known to be hit by vehicles?
Qualifications, right? She said she doesn't. It doesn't. That's not. But why do I have a suspicion?
Or sidebar.
May I, Your Honor? Yes. In your report, Doctor, you indicated that Mr. O'Keefe's pattern injuries on his right arm do not correspond to injuries that could have been produced by irregular fractured plastic pieces impacting his arm. Do you recall putting that?
It didn't do it from the pieces. All right. So now let's just jump into it. So I guess I didn't realize the x-rays came in then. I thought they came in afterwards. Aren't they on the recross? Yes, they are. They're on the recross. No, I guess not. All right. I guess we'll have to. Oh, yep, they are. Okay. We're going to wait. But I do want to show you this. I do have this pulled up. Now I'm going to share this. Okay. This was Dr. Marie Russell a few weeks ago. Shit, I don't know. Day 25, so 5 days ago.
Ever heard of a doctor named Dr. Laposata?
I've heard of Dr. Laposata.
Have you ever read any reports by Dr. Laposata?
No.
Has anybody ever shared with you any information or opinions of Dr. Laposata?
I believe she has a very good reputation.
Have you ever? Well, how do you believe that? Who told you
Because I've heard of her name at national organizations. I believe she's given presentations nationally. I've seen her name, over a dozen years or so.
Do you know whether or not she has any participation in this case?
I believe she does.
Well, so you know when you're providing accolades that she has maybe some involvement in this case? You know that?
I would provide those same accolades if she didn't have involvement in this case.
Do you know that she has involvement in this case?
I believe she does. The attorneys have not shared everything with me in terms of who the witnesses are.
Somebody must have shared her name. Who shared her name with you?
I'm very familiar with her name outside this case.
Who shared her name that she may be a participant in this case?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, somebody might.
I think I got a file or something, but yeah.
So when you were reviewing this case, did you get materials from any of the attorneys authored by Dr. Laposata?
I don't think I read a report. I was very interested in reading a report by Dr. Laposata. I was very interested, but I didn't see one.
So Brennan does that. So here we go. Oh, this is glorious. I'm going to share. Make sure I share.
You stand by that?
Yes. That's my conclusion.
And you also wrote, his arm had no tissue bruising from impact injury. Do you remember writing that?
Yes.
Do you stand by that?
I do.
We're going to approach because we've got a large looking exhibit.
Where's the...
Oh.
Okay, hang on.
Wonder how the jury is doing.
Brennan
Wonder how the jury's doing. Is somebody in the
cross-examination.
courtroom
All right.
today? Sue has been in the court.
So I want you guys to just listen. This initial question right off the bat, the kickoff of this cross-examination, sets the tone for the entire thing.
Good afternoon, Dr. Laposata.
6 minutes till the afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Laposata. Nope, 6 minutes to go, Hank. 6 minutes to go. You're already wrong. You are already wrong, sir.
That's okay. You wrote a report in this case, doctor?
Yes, I did.
Do you think that
What's going up on-
your analysis was Mr. O'Keefe thrust backwards? Is that what you determined looking at his head injury?
That he was, I didn't understand you had your hand in front of your
Sure,
mouth.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You talked about a head injury that Mr. O'Keefe had, that he
Yes.
suffered from?
Yes.
That caused his death?
Yes.
Was that caused by being thrust backwards?
Yeah, the motion was upwards, down.
Okay. And the way you just showed it could be a fall?
Correct.
Did you have an opinion looking at his wound that he was thrust backwards?
Thrust.
What do you mean thrust?
Yes,
His body went backwards. There may have been some applied force to it.
I don't know about thrust. I'm asking if you have an opinion. Your words.
We know you don't know about thrust,
About
Hank. We
thrust.
wish your fucking mom didn't know about thrust.
What do you mean?
Andrea with the bomb of the day. And I did have it pulled up on X, but I figured we'd just hit it because it came right off the bat. So let's listen to that again. I don't know about thrust. Yeah, we know you don't know about thrust, Hank.
Backwards. There may have been some applied force to it.
I don't know about thrust. I'm asking if you have an opinion. Your words.
We know you don't know about thrust,
About
Hank. We
thrust.
wish your fucking mom didn't know about thrust.
What do you mean thrust?
Did the forensic pathology diagnosis mean?
Oh, yes. Yes, Patty. That is the shirt. That is a shirt. That is absolutely 100% a shirt. Oh my God. Yes.
Mr. O'Keefe's body was thrust
yes.
backward.
If you want to say thrust as indicating movement, that it went backwards, then you could say it was thrust.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing you page 2 of your report, Dr. Laposata.
Yes.
I'm just going to ask you to read it, not out loud, and then I can ask you another question if we take it, but go on.
So, Dr. Laposata, what did you mean when you described that Mr. O'Keefe's body was thrust backward from a standing position?
I mean that he was standing upright and his body had momentum and went down and hit at the back of his head. So when it was thrust backwards.
You cannot tell forensically how much momentum he had, can you?
No, we don't do those analyses.
If you can't tell if anything caused that momentum based on the head injury, can you?
Like she gets so frustrated with his shit because he's such a frustrating person.
What What do you mean causative? It was caused.
So one of the things I like about her, though, she makes him ask her reasonable questions. Like, if he asks her some ridiculous question like he does, she'll stop him and say, I don't know what you mean. Ask me again. Ask me differently. Rephrase that, please.
His body went backwards.
Yes. And so the amount of force causing him to go backwards, that's not something you can determine.
And so if you're a jury and you're hearing this repetition over and over and over again, like, well, how much force was it? I don't know. That's not what I do. Okay, so if you hit him backwards, how much force did it take? Well, I don't know.
From the head wound, is it?
No, I can't tell you the amount of force. It was significant because he had the massive skull fractures.
Did you say it would be significant?
Yes, significant force.
In modern medicine, there are a number of different machines that can help us see the brain, like a CAT scan, perhaps?
Sure.
MRIs?
Yes.
Would you agree with modern medicine that the use of MRIs and CAT scans and other tools can give a clinician equal, if not better, opportunity to examine the brain as actually cutting it and holding it in your hand?
No, the actual gold standard is the pathology, to be able to have the brain in your hand, look at it with your naked eye. And we have conferences in the hospital where we meet with radiologists and say what we find at autopsy and see if their radiology was correct.
Can CAT scans and MRIs show contusions on the brain?
Well, they might.
Subdermal hemorrhages?
Subdural hemorrhages. Yes, they
Herniations?
can.
She had to correct him.
MRIs show contusions on the brain?
Well, they might.
Subdermal hemorrhages?
Subdural hemorrhages. Yes, they
Herniations?
can.
He said subdermal, and she had to correct him to say, no, you're not saying that right.
MRIs show contusions on the brain?
Well, they might.
Subdermal hemorrhages?
Subdural hemorrhages. Yes, they
Herniations?
can.
I like her correcting him.
Do you have any doubt about the modern medicine and the use of MRIs and CAT scans? Do you think they're inadequate in any way?
Well, I'm not a clinician, so I don't use those to diagnose diseases in living patients.
Dr. Laposata, have you ever had any experience studying the brain in real time, clinically, going and opening somebody's skull?
So now he's going to try and get her to say that, I don't know what this is. This is like Dr. Wolf. And I remember Dr. Wolf was the neurologist. So I guess he thinks that Dr. Wolf is got more. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what this is. Like, what is this?
And treating the injury before the person dies?
No, I'm not a
She's
neurosurgeon.
like, no.
You don't have any neurological expertise, do you?
I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a neurosurgeon. I'm a forensic pathologist.
Do you have any clinical experience
I love this
at
woman.
all?
No.
There's an acute head injury, and you're making an effort to observe it and analyze the injury as it progresses in an attempt to save the person's life.
I don't treat or diagnose living patients.
Ever put your finger through someone's brain?
As far as your background, have you ever had any experience, clinical experience, showing the progress of an actual brain injury and trying to treat it?
I understand the physiology of what happens to the brain when it is impacted by something, whether it be a bullet, a boulder, a fall. So I know what happens to the body to cause the changes from that trauma. I don't treat people for those injuries.
In observing a brain that's in trauma and making determinations of how long it's viable or whether the person will expire, do you know the process that a neurosurgeon would go through in order to fight to preserve the person or save the person? Do you know the step-by-step process that they would undertake?
To do what?
To try to operate or save somebody from a head injury, from a brain injury.
I'm going to allow it because of
You're going to allow it?
I'm going to allow it because I'm stupid and everything that he does, that Brenda does, is allowable and everything you do is not allowable.
But it's beyond the
Well,
scope.
it depends on what the brain injury is.
This is absolutely not in the scope of this fucking trial.
If you have head injury and you have bleeding on the brain that's pushing the brain one way or the other, it would be a subdural, then a neurosurgeon would come in and try to take that blood away.
Brenda makes my eye twitch.
So it doesn't compress the brain. So that's something that
does.
neurosurgeons do to treat head trauma. They can also put in drains into the ventricle of the brain, and that can relieve pressure in the brain because that brain swelling is a bad thing. So those are some of the things neurosurgeons do to treat brain injuries.
And can they remove part of the skull to relieve pressure?
Oh, yes, they can do that. It's called a craniotomy. They can take out part of the skull if they need to.
So there are a number of different steps that a neurosurgeon can take when someone suffers acute brain trauma to try to save the person, isn't there?
Well, the job of any doctor is to try to save a human life if you treat living patients. So certainly a neurosurgeon would evaluate the patient and decide if there's any treatment needed that could improve the patient.
When you've had cases in the past as a medical examiner where there have been issues regarding brain injury, wouldn't you agree that you have sought outside consultation with people who have a higher degree of specialty in brain injury than you?
Sometimes what we do is when we're examining the brain, we can call in for a conference and have a neuropathologist.
So here they get into this little spat about neuropathologist and a neurologist, and she corrects him again, saying, no, it's a neuropathologist. It's somebody that studies it after they're
Come
dead.
in and review the brain with us.
And back when you were a medical examiner, you did that on a number of occasions.
Yes, that's routine.
The reason why is because there are different specialties in medicine, and some are different and separate than your specialty, correct?
Of course.
And a neurosurgeon or a brain surgeon, it would be a different specialty than yours.
Yes.
And they're focused on the brain, yes?
A neurosurgeon does brain surgery.
And so, how many times in your career do you think that you've assisted the help of neurosurgeons to take a look at brain study to help you?
I've never needed to speak with a neurosurgeon to look at a brain. Sometimes we call in neuropathologists and we have a forensic neuropathology conference where we look at brains with the interns and residents.
How often would
How often do you call a neurosurgeon? I've never called a neurosurgeon. I call a neuropathologist. Hank.
you call a neuropathologist?
Maybe once a month we would have a routine conference.
And again, the neuropathologist, that's dealing with a person's brain after they're already died.
Correct.
So it's not a clinical setting or a clinical experience of actually watching the brain at work and seeing the injury as it progresses.
We don't do neuropathology like that on living people. The person is deceased.
You had an opinion to the jury today, and you said that you believe that Mr. O'Keefe died within 15 minutes?
Yes, I think that process would start within 15 or 20 minutes.
Is that to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that opinion?
Yes, based on the severity of the injury and the brain swelling.
You're aware that there are numerous level 1 trauma centers around the country that deal with brain
What is this question?
injury, right?
Sure.
And the idea that there are numerous level 1 trauma centers around the country that deal with brain injury, right?
Sure.
And the idea is that people suffer all types of brain injury, and if they are given medical attention in a reasonable amount of time, there's a chance they can be saved, yes?
Well, it's possible, but many are so severe that they cause death no matter how fast they can get medical attention.
In fact, every day when people get the right attention or proper attention, they're brought to level 1 trauma centers around this country to try to help them or save them. Isn't that fair to say?
I would hope so.
Do you think?
Sure.
When you looked at Mr. O'Keefe's brain, obviously it's after he already expired, correct?
Obviously, yes.
And so you didn't have any clinical observation of the progress of his injury that night, did you?
I was not observing him. I did not observe how he got his injury.
When you gave an estimate or you give an opinion about how long he was alive for, are you aware that there's certain tests that are done by neurosurgeons when people are suffering brain injuries but there's an attempt to save them?
Sure.
Have you ever heard of a Guzman coma score?
Glasgow, you mean?
No, what is Glasgow? You've heard of Guzman?
It's called Glasgow coma score.
Have you ever seen the assessment that a level 1 trauma center goes through when they're trying to save somebody with a brain injury?
I'm generally familiar with the emergency procedures to save somebody's life.
Have you ever read any statistical studies attempting to correlate the brain injury with the time somebody would live for?
I'm aware of that, and I see that in my practice of people who have survived brain injuries and die of something else. Then I can look at the brain and understand how the brain can heal or react to injuries.
And many people who suffer coup contre coup will go into a brain surgeon center, and many of them pass after time, don't they?
No, in every case is
I think you said 60%.
Some might live for
66%.
hours, weeks, months, or
Most of them die.
It depends on the case.
In this case, you don't have any objective criteria to identify the amount of time Mr. O'Keefe would have lived if he had the appropriate help. Isn't that fair to say?
I don't think it would have been effective because there were massive skull fractures to the base of the skull, and there are cases where the amount of force and energy applied to the head causing skull fractures, breaking the neurons, causing the brain swelling, despite rapid medical treatment, those people cannot be saved. They can't stop.
Okay, so I was remiss. During AJ's examination, she did say, and I don't remember if this was this might have been yesterday even. She said he fell back and he hit his head on a ridged surface. She was very specific as to why that he fell back and hit a ridge surface, but she is, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, she is sure that he fell back and this injury was caused by a ridge surface. So just keep that in mind as we get going on this more.
Effectively stop the brain swelling.
Many people can't be saved. Did you know that about 1/3 of them do get saved?
I don't know what you're talking about. 1/3 of everybody has different sorts of injuries. 1/3 of what?
With a clivus fracture. Who?
I don't know what you're talking about. 1/3 of what?
I don't know what you're talking about. 1/3 of everybody has different sorts of injuries. 1/3.
I want to go to a normal speed on that one.
I don't know what you're talking about. 1/3 of everybody has different sorts.
Her face is just, oh my God, it's phenomenal.
Swelling.
Many people can't be saved. Did you know that about 1/3 of them do get saved?
I don't know what you're talking about. 1/3 of everybody has different sorts of injuries. 1/3 of what?
With a clivus fracture.
Oh my God, she is killing him. She is tearing him up. We'll do this a few times because her faces get off.
Are you aware that 1/3 of those patients survive if they get the proper treatment?
It depends on the amount of force.
Okay. Are you aware that a study would show? Have you ever read a study by Isaac Wolf on clivus fractures?
No.
Have you read any studies on clivus fractures?
Clivus fractures? Yes, I understand what clivus fractures are. It's a part of the base of the skull.
Okay.
And it
have
depends.
you?
Oops. Okay, go ahead.
Please. Did you want
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you read any studies that tell you, with the proper treatment, despite these potentially catastrophic injuries, that 1/3 of patients can survive?
No, but that's not the case we have here.
And so, in this case, I asked if you had any objective.
No, that's not the case we have here. You're full of shit.
That tell you, with the proper treatment, despite these potentially catastrophic injuries, that 1/3 of patients can survive.
No, but that's not the case we have here.
And so, in this case, I asked if you had any objective criteria. You don't have any objective criteria about the progress.
I can't. Oh my God. I don't know how I listen to this on regular speed during the day because it's so slow. And I am busy and doing other things and all that, but I don't know how I listen to that so slow.
Of Mr. O'Keefe's wound that can be a basis for you to conclude that he would have died in 15 minutes. Isn't that fair to say?
No, I understand what happens to the brain when it gets that sort of injury. I understand the time course and the physiology. I've seen hundreds of individuals who've had brain injuries. Some survive for a longer period, some die earlier, and it depends on the amount of force and the amount of brain swelling. And in Mr. O'Keefe's case, we had the massive skull fractures of the base of the brain and immediate swelling and subarachnoid and subdural. So he had a large force applied to his head, which caused the brain swelling and the herniate and the progression of the brain stem down through the foramen magnum that stopped the brain. It was a very forceful impact.
You examined his brain after you looked at photographs. You can't tell us objectively when his brain swell started.
It started immediately after impact.
And you can tell us what the progress of that brain swell was by looking at his postmortem photos.
By looking at the postmortem photos and the postmortem examination, I can tell the degree of force from the extensive skull fractures that were present.
What was the degree of force?
It was medium to large.
Well, that's a wide range. What do you mean? Quantify medium to large.
Ask the question, Mr. Brennan.
What does medium to large mean?
Enough to cause a lot of fractures to the skull. He didn't just sit down and lie down.
If he sat down and lied down, he probably wouldn't have fractured his skull, correct?
That's obvious, yes.
Right. And so when you're
I love her attitude towards him.
He immediately died or died within 15 minutes. I'm asking you for objective criteria. For you to give that opinion, I'm asking you what objective information you have. And so you said that it was a large amount of force.
Hank.
Yeah.
Sure, because there were massive skull fractures, and there's a lot of energy transmitted to the brain, starts swelling immediately.
How do you know this wasn't medium force and not large force?
Because of the extensive number of skull fractures.
So are you saying it was medium or large force?
Medium to large.
Okay. How much force is that? Can you quantify it?
No.
That Mr. O'Keefe died within 15 minutes.
And my training and experience of seeing thousands of deceased people from head injuries and knowing some of their clinical course, when they get immediate medical treatment, they don't survive.
But you would agree many do.
Depends on the case.
And in this case, you didn't have any opportunity to observe the progress of Mr. O'Keefe's injury that night, correct?
Didn't have to.
I'm going to allow that.
I wasn't there.
You
The body told me what happened to it.
You have no assessment
told
of
her.
the development of his brain injury and how much time it took that night, do you?
I do, from understanding the significant skull fractures and the swelling of the brain and the compression of the brainstem that all happened very rapidly because of the amount of force that caused all those skull fractures on the base of the skull that actually then hemorrhaged into his upper eyelids. That's a large amount of force.
Was gross edema found on his brain?
I think it was swollen, yes.
But was that a finding?
Yes.
Where did you see that finding?
Well, in order to have the herniation of the brainstem, the brain swells.
Where did you see that finding?
I can't answer that. I just know it from understanding, looking at the pathology.
So at the end result, at some point, Mr. O'Keefe had gross edema.
In order to get the brain stem hemorrhages, the only way you get that is because the brain has swelled, and there's no, after injury, tissue swells, and there's no place for the brain to go when it swells, except down into the natural hole in the bottom of the skull where the spinal cord goes down. So that's where the pressure goes. So that seeing the brainstem herniation tells you that the brain has swollen a lot.
Undoubtedly, but it doesn't tell you.
He just keeps like he's Sideshow Bob. Right? This is Sideshow Hank. Just rake after rake after rake after rake. Let's see if we got a. Let's see if we got a quick GIF here of Sideshow Bob. For those that might not know, Sideshow Bob rake. Images. Do we have? Here we go. This is Hank. This is Hank today. This is Hank. That's Hank. Hank Brennan today. Sharing is caring.
The progress of that swell, does it?
I don't know what you mean.
You see, inevitably, because of the swelling, there's a.
Oh, not even re-ask the question. Just I don't know what you mean.
The swell or the progress of that swell, does it?
I don't know what you mean.
You see, inevitably, because of the swelling, there's a suffocation. But when you see that, you don't know when the swelling began or how quickly it progressed. You can't tell that from an autopsy.
Yes, you can. Because of the severity of the skull fractures, I know there was a lot of force, and that
She knows how to testify too. Look at her. She's looking at the jury.
force applied causes you to go unconscious.
We'll see a little bit later. She gets some laughs,
Then
and
your brain swells. If there was just
this is very, very heavy testimony right now. But there's some stuff that
like
happens.
one skull fracture, then that's a little bit different. But this was massive skull fractures on the base of the skull. So there's a lot of force applied. So I know because there's a lot of force applied to cause the skull fractures that the brain would swell rapidly.
You would be unable to identify the rapidity of the swelling if you don't know the amount of force. Isn't that fair to say?
Well, I do know the amount of force because of the amount of skull fractures.
In what you know is, in your words, medium to large force.
Yes.
You've heard of periorbital ecchymosis,
Yes.
and that's sometimes called raccoon eyes.
Well, periorbital ecchymosis just means bleeding and bruising around the eyes.
And you saw the bruising around Mr. O'Keefe's eyes, didn't you, in the photographs?
Well, it wasn't bruising caused by blunt force trauma to the eye. It was bleeding in the upper eyelid because the plates above the eye and the base of the skull were fractured by the brain hitting it. So then that's a result of basilar skull fractures and not the application of force directly to the eye.
Would you agree it takes a few hours for the bleeding to accumulate in the person's eyes?
No, as soon as you break the skull bones and the heart's pumping, the blood comes out of those injuries. It starts to accumulate right away. It starts within minutes, you can see it.
So you would disagree with the suggestion that it takes at least 1 to 2 hours for that bleeding to occur in the eyes. You disagree with that?
I do disagree with that. It starts immediately.
So let me get this straight, Brennan. The blood vessels are broken from the skull fracture, but you think it takes 1 to 2 hours for the bleeding to start? Is that what that's what he just said?
The skull bones and the heart starts to accumulate right away. You see, it starts within minutes. You can see it.
So you would disagree with the suggestion that it takes at least 1 to 2 hours for that bleeding to occur in the eyes. You disagree with that?
I do disagree with that. It starts immediately.
Do you have any studies that you've relied on or literature or support for that?
I understand the physiology of what happens when you get those skull fractures and the density of the blood vessels. And if your heart is pumping, you pump the blood out those broken blood vessels into this small area above the eye. And it can happen within minutes.
Do you have any studies or literature to support that?
That's my training experience. I can't cite you a particular article at this time. I could certainly go look it up and bring it to you.
Okay. Let me ask you a question.
I can't. So Brennan does this, and this is perfect. This is perfect. This is the perfect thing for that. It's like, do you have any studies or literature that can support your thing? And she's like, well, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I can go look it up. I'll go get something for you.
Happen within minutes.
Do you have any studies or literature to support that?
That's my training experience. I can't cite you a particular article at this time. I could certainly go look it up and bring it to you.
Okay. Let me ask you questions about.
Okay. He backs down with the okay.
I could certainly go look it up and bring it to you.
Okay.
Oh, she's kicking his ass. I love it.
Let me ask you questions about the wounds to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head.
Yes.
You see a linear abrasion?
Yes, vertical lines, yes.
Now, would you characterize this as a classic wound caused by falling backwards and landing on your head?
What do you mean every wound is different?
Every wound is different?
Sure, every person's different. Every way you get injured is different.
And so if somebody falls backward on their head and suffers the basal fracture, the wound from your perspective can look different.
It depends on the impacting surface.
Wounds on the same surface, say 2 people fell on the same surface, could they have?
Like he gets into these hypotheticals. Like what? Tell me how this advances your case. This does not advance the case of the Commonwealth.
Different wounds on the back of the head if they suffered the same injury?
In theory, if they fell, if they rotated their body, if you could reproduce something exactly, then you would see the same wound patterns.
This wound pattern is typical of falling backwards on a hard surface, isn't it?
We know it's from falling backwards and striking something hard.
Can the frozen ground be hard?
A frozen ground can be hard, but it doesn't fit the pattern in this injury.
We'll get to that, but is it hard enough to cause a basal fracture?
It can cause a skull fracture.
The frozen ground is different than a sheet of ice, right? It's not smooth and flat like a sheet of ice, is it?
It could be, I guess.
Okay. You mentioned there's some granular patterns in this wound.
Yes.
She's not going to.
The area in front of 34 Fairview, the frozen.
She is not going to give him anything. She does not give him anything.
Ground. Do you know if there was any impediments in the lawn that was frozen?
In the what? Oh, the lawn?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I saw the scene photographs when the snow was removed, and it was like winter lawn grass. So it was some green, some brown that was pushed down, and like straw that was going different directions, which wouldn't give you that pattern.
Did you see the exact area where Mr. O'Keefe last moved?
I saw that general area, and there were a lot of photographs.
Well,
yes.
You say general area. Can you tell us that you saw photographs?
It was good enough for Yuri, Hank.
Where Mr. O'Keefe was lying when he was found.
Yes, that general area.
Could you see the ground where his head was? Can you identify that?
Yes, with the scene investigation, they shoveled the snow off of that area.
And you had never had a chance to go out to that scene yourself, did you?
No, I just looked at all the photographs.
You cannot see what's under the grass and the dirt, can you?
You can't see what's under the grass and the dirt. That was an actual freaking question.
Well, dirt's under the grass.
Well, do you know if there's any rocks or impediments or bumps?
It was a smooth surface covered with grass.
It was a smooth surface? The front lawn was a smooth surface?
It was a flat surface.
Flat.
Covered with grass.
Okay, and do you know what was under the grass, whether there was any pebbles, rocks, debris?
I didn't see any.
From the photo?
Correct.
But you don't have any first-hand knowledge that exact area where he ended, what the turf was like, do you?
I saw photographs of that lawn where they removed his body from.
So you're relying solely on the photographs, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Correct.
Do you know if Mr. O'Keefe was wearing anything?
So she relied completely on photographs. You know who also didn't go to the scene that day? The lead investigators.
That could cause abrasions when he landed to cause that scraping pattern in addition to the linear abrasion?
He did have a baseball hat on, but that would not cause the pattern.
The area of the abrasions, is that in the area of the level of where a baseball hat would be on the back of somebody's head?
It could be.
If somebody hits the ground and falls backwards, can they slide?
If they're on an incline,
What if they're thrust?
well, if you fall backwards and you fall backwards on an incline, your body might move.
Well, what if you fall backwards on flat ground? Does the body, can it move after it falls?
Well, not really, maybe a little. If from the momentum of the impact, it might move slightly, but not really.
So when a person falls backwards and lands, you don't think the head has any room for movement?
Not significant.
Well, not significant, maybe just a quarter inch, half inch.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And did you see
Yeah.
the scrapes around the wound of Mr. O'Keefe's head?
Of course I saw them, yes.
And they're all within, what, about an inch?
What are you describing? What part? Are you describing the tearing, the laceration of the scalp, or the vertical abrasions?
The vertical abrasions.
There were maybe an inch, inch and a half.
Inch and a half. Do you think that if someone fell backwards and landed on the head, they could move an inch and a half?
Well, he landed on something that had a ridge on it to cause the laceration in the scalp, and then with a little bit of movement, those vertical scratches were caused by some kind of like pebbly-like surface.
She just says it's like he had something with a ridge, and those little scratches are caused by a. Oh no. Wow. Holy crap. Everything went away. I don't know if that was my phone. I don't know why the hell that happened. That was weird. Okay. All right. I think we're back. All right. Let me share. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing and then reshare just to make sure we're good. Okay. Yeah, I just went crazy for a minute, didn't it? All right. So, all right. This is hilarious. This is probably the funniest part of this testimony here.
That was caused by the brain. Do you agree that a brain is very soft, consistent with, for example, tofu?
Oh, gross. What do you mean? It is soft.
Is it that soft? Is that the texture?
No.
Brain. Do you agree?
I'm pretty sure the jury, and I think it was Sue that said that when she did this, the jury laughed. This got a laugh out of the jury.
That a brain is very soft, consistent with, for example, tofu?
Oh, gross. What do you mean? It is soft.
Is it that soft? Is that the texture?
Well, it depends on what kind of tofu you.
Okay.
Yes, it is. My tofu queen
Do you
here.
think that the orbital could have broken when the break on the back of the head split the skull and then would cause the orbital break instead of the brain?
The orbital plate fractures, if you look at the base of the skull after you take the brain out, you can see the fractures go up from the back to the front into the orbital plate. Sometimes when you fall backwards, the brain can also slap those orbital plates and cause some damage, but I could trace the fractures from the point of impact along the base of the skull to the part of the skull over the eyes.
Do you think the base of the skull break, when it separates, could have caused those orbital fractures?
I don't understand your question.
When Mr. O'Keefe incurred that head injury,
Yes.
the basal fracture,
Oh, do you think it's soft like tofu? Ooh, gross. Oh my God, that's so freaking funny. Oh my God, that's so funny.
do you think that the pressure, the damage from that basal fracture, the separation, could have caused the orbital breaks in his eyes?
Well, the fracture of the plates above the eye, when the blood is still pumping, there's a space there where the blood can come down into the upper eyelid.
So you described the brain as causing that break. I'm asking you, could it have been from the basal fracture, from the skull fracture?
Yes, the fracture that was caused by the impact to the back of the head, radiating to the front of the
Radiating. It's just what I was going to say. Radiating to the front. Yes.
front of the base of the skull.
So when you told us on direct it was from the brain that caused those fractures, was that just a summary, or is that to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Well, sometimes the brain can also, in a fall, flap and hit those. But in this case, I could also see that the skull fracture started at the back and came to the front. But it could also be contributed to by the brain hitting those delicate bones.
I guess my question is, when you provide the opinions generally of what you believe and what you've seen, are these general opinions, or are they actually specific opinions based on the facts of this case?
They are opinions based on my examination of this case, but all that's based on my 40 years of training and experience.
Well, when you told us about the brain causing those orbital fractures, you would agree with me, at least now anyways, that it very likely could have been the basal fracture that caused those breaks.
Yeah, both.
It could have been both?
Sure,
Okay, could it have been just the basal fracture?
that's possible.
When you offered the opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, had you considered the basal fracture as the source of those breaks?
Of course.
Is there a reason you didn't share that with us and you just said it was the brain?
I had no reason not to share it.
Okay. Was there any depressed fracture to Mr. O'Keefe's skull?
No.
Can you tell us a little bit about a depressed fracture? Depressed fracture is different than what we saw with Mr. O'Keefe, isn't it?
A depressed
I don't know why he's gotten into what's up with the depressed fracture. I don't get it.
fracture is when something fractures the skull and then pushes the skull and moves the skull inward.
20 years, did you say?
Of course.
In those 20 years, depressed fractures can happen from sharp objects,
Sure.
pointed objects.
Sure.
If someone hit a person in the back of
The head with a hammer and caused the fracture and then.
skull fracture in this case, was there?
Correct.
Wounds on Mr.
All right, so now we're going to get. Now Hank is going to step on some more rakes. He's going to get into the arm, and he's not going to like. He's not going to like the outcome.
Opinions about wounds on Mr. O'Keefe's arm. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that.
Sure.
Could we have that photo brought up, please?
Now we get.
Do you see all of those superficial abrasions?
Yes, I see.
There we go. So she's gonna play the game with him. He's gonna bring out the superficial, but you notice as soon as he says superficial, she says, yes, I see the patterned abrasions or the patterned injury. So she's gonna play the game with Hank.
Do you see all of those superficial abrasions?
Yes, I see patterned injuries.
Right. Would you agree that they're superficial abrasions?
Yes, they go along the skin surface.
How many punctures would you identify in that photograph?
See, there may be some punctures like around the elbow, consistent with the teeth puncture.
Now, I think what Hank is doing here, because he gets into this puncture argument with her, and he's thinking that there has to be a certain amount of depth for something to be a puncture, right? I'm thinking he thinks that it can't be a puncture unless it goes X number of centimeters or millimeters. It would be millimeters into your arm. Well, she gives the definition of what a puncture is.
Puncturing, most of them are the teeth scraping along the skin.
I'm not going to ask you what you believe the cause was. I'm going to ask you just about the wound. How many punctures do you see?
Well, this doesn't show. There are other photographs which show more of them, but there's the little dot-like areas. You could call an area of skin puncture.
Can you tell us from this photograph how many punctures you would say are in that photo?
I didn't count them.
Did you suggest that there was more than one puncture on that wound?
I think I see more than one, yes.
Pardon me?
I see more than one on there.
Okay, could you give us a count of how many punctures you see?
Well, without looking at all the photos, I couldn't give you a correct number.
Okay. You've written a report, haven't you?
What?
You wrote a report?
I did.
And in your report, you described many of those abrasions as punctures, don't you?
Yes.
And a puncture isn't just a scratch. A puncture is a penetration of the skin, isn't it?
Yeah, a point-like penetration.
A puncture has a very...
Point-like penetration. A point-like penetration. That's it. That's the definition of a puncture.
Very specific medical meaning, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a point-like penetration of the skin.
And according to you, there are many punctures in that wound.
Yes, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 or 7.
Can medical...
You see punctures? Yeah, I see punctures. It's a point-like penetration of the skin. Those are point-like penetrations of the skin. Like I said, I think Hank went down this route thinking that there had to be some kind of certain depth for it to be considered a puncture. And she's just like, no, it's a point-like penetration of the skin. I see like 7 of them there.
Professionals disagree on opinions about wounds and causes?
I suppose they can.
You also gave some opinions that you did not believe that Mr. O'Keefe's scratches were caused by having some impact with broken pieces of plastic or glass, correct?
Correct. They weren't caused by that.
Broken plastic or glass can cause a number of different...
Oh, not yet.
It causes an array of irregular, random injuries.
It can have infinite different patterns, couldn't it?
Could.
There's nothing to hold a wound from a broken shard to be north or south, east and west. It all depends on how the force is impacted on the body, true?
I'm not quite clear on your question.
I'll try to do better. When you're
Good luck with that.
Shards of broken glass and broken plastic, there is no set direction.
Why would he say broken glass? Because there's been.
That they may cut somebody, is there?
Well, it would depend on the case and how those occurred.
They can happen in many different forms as far as depth, yes?
Well, anything's possible.
How about length?
What about length?
Wouldn't that change? Couldn't that change?
She is not going to let him get away without asking a real question. I love it. I freaking love this. He is on the ropes. He is.
Plastic. There is no set direction that they may cut somebody, is there?
Well, it would depend on the case and how those occurred.
They can happen in many different forms as far as depth, yes?
Well, anything's possible.
How about length?
What about length?
Wouldn't that change? Couldn't that change depending on how?
Look at the face.
Well, anything's possible.
How about length?
What about length?
Wouldn't that?
What about length? Oh my God. She is beating him down.
Couldn't that change depending on how the injury occurred, the length of the wound?
Sure.
And in this case, you talked about your opinions of injury relative to a motor vehicle, didn't you?
That was
no, because you
something I considered.
objected.
That's something you considered. Did you know much about the details of the motor vehicle in this case?
Yes.
This right here we go. We are getting into it where this is the ass kicking. This is why, and you'll see in a little bit why he decides to switch up how he's going to attack her. And you'll see that doesn't do anything either. So
when you considered your differential diagnosis, did you consider whether there was any DNA on the vehicle?
I didn't look at any of that.
I'm sorry?
I did not look at any DNA.
Do you know if there was any hair on the vehicle?
I don't know.
Did you consider the scene itself where there may have been a debris field? Did you take a look at the debris field in this case?
I know there were photographs of various pieces of plastic around the area where the body was found.
And do you remember where those pieces were found?
Somewhat, yes.
Did you have an opportunity to consider other evidence like a shoe in the area near where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
I know one shoe was on his foot at the hospital, the other was at the scene.
Do you know if his hat stayed with him after he landed on the ground?
The hat was in the area where his body was found.
Did you take a look at his pants, the back of his pants?
I looked at that, yes.
Okay, what did you see when you saw the back of his pants?
Well, because he had bled from the back of his injury and he was on a hospital gurney, some of that blood came down, so some of the blood was on the back of his pants.
Did you see anything else other than blood on the back of his pants?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember.
Objection to this.
Did you look, when you were doing your differential diagnosis, did you look at any evidence other than physical evidence? Did you look at any data evidence?
I don't know what you mean, data.
Like data you'd find on a cell phone?
No.
Did you?
When Brennan thinks he's on to something, you'll hear him go, or well. He does this short little, or well, when he thinks he's like on to something. And then he's going to get his ass kicked right here.
I don't know what you mean, data.
Like data you'd find on a cell phone?
No.
Did you look at any of the data evidence from the defendant's Lexus?
No, other than looking at the contours of the back to see if it had impacted Mr. O'Keefe.
When you were doing differential diagnosis?
Here we go. Here we go. I'm just saying, hold on. The ride's about to start. Keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times.
Did you look at any information that would tell you what the speed of that impact may have been or allegedly was?
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry I didn't slow it down to normal. Oh. This is a body blow. This is a devastating. This is Mike Tyson in his prime, overhead right cross. Overhand right cross from Mike Tyson in his prime in 1987. This is 87, 86 Tyson knockout punch.
When you were doing differential diagnosis, did you look at any information that would tell you what the speed of that impact may have been or allegedly was?
Well, it didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
Anything about the car or the data in the car because you had already formed your opinion?
It did not hit him, so it was not relevant to my opinion.
Oh my God.
By looking at the body, I could tell that there was no evidence of impact with a vehicle. So whether the vehicle was going slow or fast is not relevant.
And so you didn't try to get any information about the speed of the vehicle? It was totally irrelevant to you?
Correct.
And did you also disregard?
See that wall you just walked into?
Let me ask you, do you ever look at statements?
I look at witness statements if they're available to me.
Were any of the defendants' statements made available? You said that when Mr. O'Keefe was first incurred his injury, you think that he was unconscious?
I better get out of this because I just got my face beat in. Oh my God.
Yes, I think that the severity of the impact made him immediately unconscious.
So hypothetically, Mr. O'Keefe incurred his injury sometime around 12:32. Is it your opinion that he never moved again until he was moved physically by somebody else?
Well, I don't know the exact time that he got the injury on the back of the head, but after that time, he could not carry out any purposeful activity.
May I approach sidebar, Your Honor?
Okay.
All right, so they're going to go to lunch. Let's see. I don't remember what this is. This is something here. So I don't know if this is argument or what.
I don't want to see if they're going to come.
Tell me what it is you want to introduce through this witness.
Okay, so, all right. Brennan realizes that he is getting his ass kicked. Okay. He realizes, damn, I am losing the jury. I'm getting my ass kicked. This 70-plus-year-old lady is whooping my ass. So I need to impugn her, her reputation, right? I need to attack her reputation. Oh yeah. No, I need to go personal now because this 70-some-year-old lady is kicking my ass. I need to load up my gloves. I want heavier gloves in this fight. I need to go with or lighter gloves, or I need to put some metal in my gloves. I need to use my feet. I need to be able to kick in this fight, and she can only use her fists. Here we go. So go ahead and do this. I'm going to run to the restroom.
And her running of her office. We have an audit from 2005, State Department of Rhode Island, Department of Health.
Oh, the
in that audit,
autopsy.
A picture of them was presented on direct examination. In that audit, they investigated chief medical examiner, and they compiled a history of statistics for the medical examiner, which was Dr. Laposata. There were no reports, incomplete reports, and unsigned reports of over 1,500 individuals between June 30th, 2000 to June 30th, 2005. So in that 5-year period, there was an extraordinary number of individuals
Where does
that
it
weren't
say
properly attended
extraordinary?
to, showing negligence, if not malfeasance. It was recommended that the standards, policies, and practices of Dr. Laposata's office would need to change because of the extraordinary backlog of cases regarding autopsies. In addition, it was noted that the incomplete reports confirmed that there was significant concerns with the historical management practices of the medical examiner's office shortly after Dr. Laposata resigned. In addition, it was promoted that in the station nightclub fire, Dr. Laposata had a heroic effort, and in her testimony, she also noted that there was a failure, or implied there was a failure because the medical examiner or somebody did not go to the scene to look at the turf in front of 34 Fairview Road. She suffered the same criticism. For hours and hours after the station nightclub incident, she was contacted with a request to come to the scene. She refused to come to the scene, did not appear for at least 17 hours, directly on point to the claims that she's making against other people. Is the
How was she making claims against other people? She said we look at photos.
Extreme scale. She testified in Commonwealth versus Tompkins. In Commonwealth versus Tompkins, she was listed and testified as an expert, attempted to testify as an accident reconstructionist, which was denied. Inevitably, the court made conclusions. Actually, in that case, her efforts to be an accident reconstructionist were denied. Then she testified in a case called Patino.
She handed your ass to you, so now you're going for the smear?
She received great scrutiny and criticism from the court.
Exactly.
The court noted on page 1025 of the transcript when Dr. Laposata gave the
I
testimony.
think so too. I think so, yeah.
She knew the mother was lying. She read the text messages and knew the defendant had beat the boy. The only reason I conclude that she offered such testimony was to distance the defendant from causing those bruises, setting up an argument against malice, but instead destroyed her credibility. On cross-examination, she came across as a hired gun. Sometimes it's seemingly small things that impeach a witness's credibility. Inevitably, on the credibility determination by the court would agree the jury gave greater weight to the testimony of Dr. Gilson and Snelling than they did Dr. Laposata for the reasons I addressed previously. The jury was justified in discounting her testimony.
I don't like her, so I'm going to bring out the smears.
The other doctors testified apparently impartial. While she appeared as a paid advocate, at least on this occasion, without impugning the witness's integrity, because that witness is known to the court, but in this case, when she testified, termination by another tribunal.
Yeah, guess what? You don't get to do in court.
And that's why I came sidebar rather than ambush, give the court notice that I'd like to get into the criticisms regarding her run as medical director that led to resignment after she was audited and left 1,500 bodies unattended or incomplete.
Okay, so listen to this shit right here. This is why Brennan is a complete scumbag. Okay? This is not in this audit.
Regarding her run as medical director that led to resignment after she was audited and left 1,500 bodies unattended or incomplete.
He just said that she left 1,500 bodies unattended or incomplete.
Also get into the criticism she received for her handling or lack of handling of the station nightclub fire, and finally get into the adverse credibility determination in the Patino case.
So I'll need a copy of that.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, the audit established that as the chief medical examiner, the audit revealed that she left 1,500 bodies unattended, was his quote, bodies unattended. That's absolutely not what happened in that situation. It was a political situation. The medical director for Rhode Island came in and took over. He began to change protocols and cut quality control. He said he did not want a second set of eyes on any of the reports, not the autopsies. There was never a suggestion, ever, that an autopsy was not performed efficiently and timely. Never. The reports that were attended to the autopsies it was a two-tiered set of criteria that Dr. Laposata put in place to establish quality control and quality assurance. First, the medical examiner conducts the autopsy and writes a report. Then the doctor herself, the chief medical examiner, because she is a perfectionist, determined that she was going to establish a protocol in which she would put eyes on every single report, hundreds and hundreds of reports per year. In doing so, she had to prioritize which reports were going to take a priority, which ones were being subject to litigation, which ones were going to be subject to criminal cases, and which ones were never going to be subject to any review at all. For instance, if somebody was found, let's say somebody that was without family, etc., found and unidentified, there's no litigation attendant to that report, she would put that report aside and get to that report after she dealt with the reports that were on sort of on the front burner, if you will. By the way, none of the reports were ever not done. They were all completed. There were a small fraction of reports, according to the audit and according to Dr. Laposata herself, that had to take a back seat. When the medical director came in 2005, by the way, this is 25 years ago, right? These are autopsies that were performed, and the audit was performed for autopsies and reports dealing with the year 2000. It's 2025. This is 25 years ago. When the new medical director came in for Rhode Island, he said, I don't want any review of any of the reports because it's more efficient and it's faster to get the reports out.
Okay, so that was it. So now let's get to the station nightclub fire. So that was a political thing. So station nightclub
with regard to the station nightclub fire, her staff was on location immediately. She, as the chief medical examiner, was there the same day. So that's of no legal moment. It's of no consequence. It certainly has nothing to do with her opinions and conclusions in this case. The Tompkins case, we've already talked about that in voir dire, Your Honor. The Tompkins case dealt with an issue dealing with accident reconstruction, which she's not undertaking. I'm not asking her, and she ain't saying.
I've excluded that part of it, based partially on the Tompkins case.
Right, and I don't know anything about the Patino case. And what I would say is, given the fact, look, we don't know what the facts of that case were. We don't know what the trial was about. We don't know what the cross-examination was about. We don't know why she was called. We don't know what she looked at. We don't know why she was looking at what she did look at. We don't know why she didn't look at things that she might not have looked at. We don't know why her opinions and conclusions were ultimately rendered. We would have to have a trial within a trial, which I would be happy to undertake if someone gives me a file. Happy to do that. But I don't think we want to do that. I don't think the court wants to do that. Also, I will say, I don't think that attacking this witness's credibility is in good faith by the Commonwealth. Mr. Brennan himself has hired Dr. Laposata personally no fewer than 4 or 5 times. Maybe it's 3 or 4 times. He knows her qualifications. He knows the quality of her work. He's actually undertaken to consult with her as a medical examiner and a consultant. So I don't believe that these last 2 issues are in good faith.
Brennan has hired her before.
That is just a mischaracterization of what he likes to do for the public. Trent Jackson has a way with words to just inflate or make things up. I have not hired Dr. Laposata 4 or 5 times. And so that is just a mischaracterization of what he likes to do for the public. But the reality is, I've used her a few times, and the last time I used her.
He said 4 or 5 times, maybe 3 or 4. He changed it. So now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, he inflated it.
I'm not going to disclose why I don't use her anymore because it's unfair with her in the world.
Yeah. No, you're right. He doesn't use her because she won't lie for his stupid butt.
Suggestion that's not what I'm going to say.
You don't use her anymore because
so
you're for the Commonwealth.
First two,
she doesn't support your opinion.
The backlog issue, if we can call it that, with the ME's office, I'm going to allow the Commonwealth to get into that through questioning. Same with the station nightclub fire, based on the.
Of course she's going to let Brennan do. She lets Brennan do whatever he wants. Oh, it doesn't. What's funny is she's gonna turn the tide on this. And let me see if I can. Give me a second. I want to pull up something so we can look at it here later. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to this.
Testimony already in evidence. Those two areas, and Mr. Jackson, without leading, you can certainly go back and rehabilitate her. But those two will come in. I'm not going to do anything with Tompkins because I used it for the basis of keeping out what appeared to me to be biomechanical engineering opinions of this witness. She's not qualified to do that. So I have not read Patino. I will read it over the lunch break and see if we get anywhere with that. Okay, so I need a copy of that. I want you to give Mr. Jackson a copy as well. Okay? Okay, so, all right. Okay, so let's mark those now.
Sure.
So they get in, so they're going to limit. There's a motion about Rentschler's stupid PowerPoint, how he can't say anything about Welcher and blah, blah, blah. So let's see.
It's actually getting that.
I just argued for 4 points of it. I already told you I would not allow in 3 because I've already considered it. I've now looked at the 4th one, the case. I'm not going to let you get into that during cross-examination. If the door is open and you think you can get into it after redirect, please come to sidebar.
Thank you.
All right. And also, I had a chance to look at the actual exhibit regarding.
So now we're going to get back into it here.
Good afternoon.
So let's go ahead and try and impeach her character, please.
You were asked on direct examination about your qualifications. You were a medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island, is that fair to say?
Yes, I was the chief medical examiner.
For 20 years?
12 years.
I'm sorry, 12 years. When's the last time you worked as a medical examiner?
In 2005.
When's the last time that you conducted an autopsy?
I've done probably a handful of autopsies, private autopsies in my consulting practice.
Since 2005?
Correct.
When did you think the last time you did one is?
Maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. Since you left the medical examiner's office, have you had any specialized training in brain injuries?
It's all part of keeping up with the medical literature and knowing the forensic pathology literature, reading medical literature. So it's a continuing endeavor to keep yourself educated with medical updates.
Since you left the medical examiner's office, have you had any specialized training in brain injuries?
I've not gone to a course on brain injuries.
Since you left the medical examiner's office, have you taught any students on brain injuries?
Yes.
Have you given any classes on brain injuries?
Yes, I have.
And coup counter coup, how many times have you experienced that as a medical examiner, that condition?
Well, I myself haven't experienced it, which was good. But in cases.
Have you taught any classes? Yep. Don't. I'm not an attorney, but attorneys say there's a saying for attorneys: don't ask a question you don't know the answer for.
Injuries?
I've not gone to a course on brain injuries.
Since you left the medical examiner's office, have you taught any students on brain injuries?
Yes.
Have you given any classes or seminars on brain injuries?
Yes, I have.
And coup counter coup, how many times have you experienced that as a medical examiner, that condition?
Well, I myself haven't experienced it, which was good. But in cases, hundreds of cases, it's a common injury.
You said you did differential diagnosis. That is to exhaust any potential bias you have, correct?
Well, a differential diagnosis is to think, how many ways can you get this finding? And it does help prevent bias.
Did you say on direct examination part of the benefit of differential diagnosis is to make sure that you don't have a bias?
Yes, yes.
In order to eliminate bias, you're supposed to look at all reasonable alternatives, correct?
Yes, that's part of it, making a differential diagnosis.
So you don't just look at a person's body, come to a conclusion, and ignore other evidence. That would kind of defeat the purpose of differential diagnosis, wouldn't it?
Well, you always have to look at all the evidence.
And so if you didn't look at all the evidence and you disregarded some of the evidence because you had already made up your mind, that really wouldn't be the proper study of differential diagnosis, would it?
Right, I don't do that.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
I don't do that. I always look at all the evidence.
And would you look at all the evidence even if it was contrary to whatever opinion you wanted to give in court?
Well, the evidence allows me to come to an opinion. So it's not like I decide on some opinion I want to give and then look for the evidence. The evidence is going to tell me what happened to the body.
So you would never say, like, I don't need to look at that evidence. If it's presented to you, you'd look at it and study it and consider it in differential diagnosis?
Sure, it may or may not not apply, but I'd look at it.
Because if you did that and said, well, I don't need to look at this, and it was relevant evidence, that would defeat the whole idea of differential diagnosis, correct?
Well, you always want to look at all the evidence that's going to help you decide what happened to the body.
If you were to ignore relevant evidence because you already made your mind up, that could create some type of bias, even if you're not recognizing it, correct?
Well, I don't make my mind up. I make it up on all the evidence I have. Then if something else other evidence comes up later, I have to reevaluate everything and consider that new evidence.
When you were talking about car collisions, I don't want to belabor the point, but you didn't major in physics, did you?
In what?
You didn't major in physics, did you?
No, I took physics, but no, didn't major in it.
And the last time you took physics was probably, what, undergrad?
Correct. Thank goodness.
You have no study in biomechanical engineering?
No, I'm not a biomechanical engineer.
Understood. You never taught courses in accident reconstruction, have you?
Only in terms of looking at the injuries on the body and showing how that they could or could not have occurred from impact with a motor vehicle.
Have you taught classes in accident reconstruction?
This is Brennan, 100% Brennan, just complicating everything, throwing this and that in there. He likes to confuse everything. If he's, especially when he's failing, he'll just try to start to combine everything and confuse everything and just be stupid.
Construction?
Only as far as it would affect the findings on the body.
Do you know what I mean by when I say accident reconstruction?
Well, accident reconstruction meaning, and I'm telling you that my expertise in accident reconstruction is restricted to looking at the body and then understanding how impacts may or may not have occurred to the body. I don't take a car and look at mileage and such like that.
You don't do any studies of the actual vehicles. You're focused on the body?
I'm focused on the body, but I also look at the vehicles to look at the points of impact that might be possible.
You do not have any advanced study in biomechanics, do you?
No.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned that when you were in the medical examiner's office, you had a number of higher profile cases.
Well, every case is important because somebody's dead.
You pointed out some pretty specific ones on direct examination. Were those more important, the ones that were highlighted, or is that the same as every other case?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you had mentioned the Egypt airline crash, Station nightclub fire. Those were highlighted or pronounced on direct examination. Are they equally important?
Okay, so Brennan was asked if he could use his feet in the fight or add some weight to his gloves, like some metal pieces to it. So, he's got an advantage. And Beverly said, yeah, sure. Go ahead and add those pieces to it. We don't care. This is Chuck Norris, right? You're looking at Chuck Norris. So it doesn't matter. Go ahead. Take a crowbar if you want. You're going up against Chuck Norris.
Important as every other case?
Oh, absolutely. Every person is my patient.
You talked about some of your commendations. The Station nightclub fire, you received quite a bit of criticism on that, didn't you?
Well, there was a flurry of negative press without any basis.
You had mentioned that a medical examiner, should have gone out to the scene to look at the area where John O'Keefe was found to make observations. Did you suggest that in any way on direct examination?
You have to know what the scene looks like, and usually that is documented in police reports and in police photographs who document the scene.
The Station nightclub fire, that had numerous victims, didn't it?
Yes, 100.
And did you receive criticism because you were repeatedly requested by emergency responders and police officials to come to the scene, and you refused?
That's incorrect. First of all, nobody called me to come to the scene, and medical examiners are not first responders. As soon as I got a call that there was that fire in the nightclub, my investigator went right to the scene, and I was in constant communication with him throughout the early morning hours of that horrible accident. And I went into the medical examiner's office because I had to start getting ready to run our office 24 hours a day to not only take care of the poor individuals who expired in the nightclub fire, but also the regular work of the medical examiners. So there was no need for me to go to the scene because I had my investigator there, and my job would be at the office to get things all set up to handle the influx of deceased.
Did you receive criticism that over 17 hours there was an effort to have you come to the scene, but you refused?
There was,
I'm going all out in a different thing.
yeah, that's incorrect. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to scare you.
Oh.
Right there. This is one of the times. So they're in the middle of this thing. This is one of the times when the jury.
That over 17 hours there was an effort to have you come to the scene, but you refused?
There was,
I'm going all out in a different thing.
yeah, that's incorrect. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to scare you.
Oh. Okay.
Hold on for a second.
Yuri loves her. Yuri loves her.
Did you receive criticism that officials?
I'm going to allow it.
Did you
based on the
receive
ending.
criticism?
Pursuant to the ending, let's get it.
Did you receive criticism that for over 17 hours officials were asking you to come to the scene and you refused?
It was untrue. It was printed in the newspaper. We looked up all the phone records and provided it to the newspapers and showed that nobody called me to go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was erroneous.
She just said bullshit. So he tried to get it in. He said, 17 hours, you didn't go there. No, we pulled up the phone records. We gave the phone records to the press. And there was nobody that called me.
17 hours officials were asking you to come to the scene and you refused?
It was untrue. It was printed in the newspaper. We looked up all the phone records and provided it to the newspapers and showed that nobody called me to go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was erroneous. I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was gone if I needed to. I had my.
All right, let me slow it down. Sorry, I've got it on 1.5 because we got to hear this because I'm.
And showed that nobody called me to go. I would have gone if I needed to. I had my investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was erroneous.
It was just bullshit. She actually said it was just bullshit. Okay, now remind me to share back. So this was Sue today. Sue O'Connell, commentator from NBC Boston. The judge startles Laposata and apologizes. Another laugh from the jury. Some jurors are smiling at Laposata as she testifies about the station press. And then we're going to get into the consultancy thing is coming up real soon. So, yeah, they laugh at this. She's testifying about the press giving her crap. She's like, oh, it's just, bullshit. I mean, it was erroneous. I know. Okay. Sorry, you're right. Say.
You said it. Investigator there. It was just bullshit. No, it was erroneous stuff.
You said it.
Was there other criticisms in 2005 before you left the office?
No, there was a flurry of stuff in the papers. There were union issues, new director of health, new governor. So yeah, there was a little flurry of stuff, which was not substantive.
So you inevitably did resign in 2005?
Yes, because my budget
Chuck Norris. She is Chuck damn Norris.
was going to be cut, and I knew that if I had to get rid of a medical examiner, we couldn't do a good job for the state, and I'd done it. I'd been chief for 12 years. I'd been on call 24 hours a day for 12 years, which was an honor, really. But then if I couldn't do a good job, if we cut the budget, I had to get rid of a medical examiner. I couldn't serve the people of Rhode Island well, so I resigned.
Did you resign shortly after the audits and criticism?
No.
Same year?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Okay. After you resigned, you opened your own company?
Did you resign after the audits and, all the criticism? I don't know. Same year? Okay. I don't even remember. Like, this is just like, he thudded out. This is completely.
Yes, I started.
So here we go. Now we're going to get into the consultancy. And I'm going to just slow this back down to normal speed. Not 75, not 0.75 under. Okay, so here we go.
Independent consulting practice member.
Okay.
Okay, so
shortly after the audits and criticism?
No.
Same year?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Okay. After you resigned, you opened your own company?
Yes, I started an independent consulting practice.
How much of your business is consulting?
It's a consulting practice.
Yep. How much of your business? How much of your income?
100%. It's consulting.
Do you consult?
Two jurors laugh as she explains to Brennan that her consultancy is a consultant business. He is so done with it. I mean, they're just like, what even is this?
Your own company?
Yes, I started an independent consulting practice.
How much of your business is consulting?
It's a consulting practice.
Yep. How much of your business? How much of your income is consulting?
100%. It's consulting.
Do you consult in both criminal and civil cases?
Yes, I do.
What percentage of cases are criminal cases?
It's maybe half and half.
Half criminal, half civil?
I don't keep track of it in that way, but that would be a guess.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
I don't keep track of numbers of civil or criminal cases that I'm consulted in. If I had to give an estimate, it would be half and half. I've worked on over 1,000 cases in my private company.
Okay. So I want to go see what she said. I got to see what Emily said. We haven't really gone to Emily here. I gotta see what she said. Okay, so we're going this way. Nightclub fire questions, we're getting there. Okay, yep, there we go.
Nope. And you opened your own company?
Yes, I started an independent consulting practice.
How much of your business is consulting?
It's a consulting practice.
Yep. How much of your business? How much of your income is consulting?
100%. It's consulting.
Do you consult in both?
Oh, we didn't get a reaction. Really?
Also, has anyone in the chat, and I don't know this jury's experience, we don't know their jobs. Anyone in the chat want to walk out of your job over being told to cut budgets, terminate people, take over the jobs of 4 people?
Yep.
Do it all yourself all of a sudden? Like, oh, your internet speed's fast. You can do the job of these 5 people that have been laid off. Anyone ever had to make do and wanted to walk out of their job? Right. Anyone?
I figured she would go off on that, but okay. All right. Share. Doop, doop. Okay.
And fair to say you get compensated for your time?
Yes, I get paid for my time.
Dr. Laposata, you had mentioned that there were some scratches that you had taken a look at on Mr. O'Keefe's body. If we could have Exhibit 165, please.
Boy, did that all fall flat, didn't it?
That just totally, I mean, yeah, no, exactly. It's so.
Now, would it be fair to say, Dr. Laposata, you do not know the genesis of that cut on Mr. O'Keefe's right eye?
I do not know what caused it. I can tell you what didn't cause it, but I don't know what did cause it.
You said that was from blunt force?
It's from application of blunt force to that little area that broke the skin.
When you were asked a question about whether that was consistent with a punch, you opined that it was consistent with a punch, yes?
It could be consistent with a punch.
You weren't saying it was consistent with a punch to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, were you?
Actually, wasn't
that would be within my differential diagnosis.
It could be consistent with all other types of blunt impact, or many other types of blunt impact, couldn't it?
That's correct.
Ground, perhaps?
No.
No, an object?
If it was an object that could get into that area under the eyebrow, yes.
You mentioned the spoiler on the back of Miss Reed's Lexus. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Do you know how tall John O'Keefe was?
He's around 7 foot, 5'11", I think, 7'2", something around in there.
No, he's more closer to 6'1". Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
You got lost on 70 inches, 71 inches.
That spoiler on the Lexus, do you know how high off the ground that is?
No.
Did you ever try to measure it or ask for photos or any information about that?
I looked at the photos.
And did you ever ask for any measurements or try to take any measurements?
No.
Could I have Exhibit 166, please?
Oh, God, the blue paint.
Did you see this cut on Mr. O'Keefe's nose?
Oh, no, that's a scratch. It's not made by a sharp instrument. It's not a cut. It's a scratch.
Is there any scratches on the left side? Do we have a photo of the left side? Please. And that, you say that's a scratch, not a cut?
Correct. Because
see your eyebrow.
Closer to 6'1". Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Oh.
On it, but it's not.
No scratch on the right side of Mr. O'Keefe's nose?
I don't see it. One, no. And that's not a good photograph because there's some blood obscuring the nose and maybe a small scrape on the tip of the nose. Incised wound means a bladed sharp cut. This is a scratch, not made by a blade. hypothermia. But that's
Basically, they're going to argue about the piece of glass because, she said she pulled a piece of glass.
the case
out of
here.
her eye.
Not the ultimate death, but if somebody's outside and if there's no movement, assume for a second there's no movement of Mr. O'Keefe after 12:32:16.
It usually
Now we're
doesn't
going
have
to
that
get
much.
into the.
And so inevitably, at 6:37, Mr. O'Keefe's body was 80 degrees.
Yes, when he got to the hospital, his rectal temperature was 80 degrees.
So that is a drop from the standard, or what's expected of 98.6 degrees. That's a drop of at least 18.6 degrees.
Yes.
You mentioned that Mr. O'Keefe, after suffering his head injury, would not have moved other than twitching.
Correct. No purposeful movement.
Were you aware that he had an iPhone with healthcare data on it?
No.
If there's no movement, assume for a second there's no movement of Mr. O'Keefe after 12:32:16, and he's found a little after 6 a.m. in the morning. That's about 5 hours, or 5.5 hours, correct?
About.
And if somebody is in the cold for 5.5 hours, that's consistent with dropping from 98.6 degrees to 80 degrees in body temperature, isn't it?
If the person is dead, yes.
If a person is outside in the cold and still alive, will their body temperature decrease?
If they can, people can die of hypothermia, but that's not the case here.
Not the ultimate death, but if somebody's outside and they're alive and they're lying in the snow and it's below freezing, will they lose body temperature?
They will, especially if they're not bundled up well.
And body temperature can drop from 2.5 to 4 degrees an hour?
In a dead body.
Okay. In a living person, it can drop 1.5 degrees.
No. A dead body at room temperature will usually lose body temperature at like 1.5 degrees an hour. If a dead body is in a cold environment covered with snow and avalanche environments, the dead body can cool at 4 degrees per hour.
And so a person who is in cold conditions, starting to be covered by snow, less than freezing, they can lose body temperature when they're living, can't they?
If you're sure, you can. People die of hypothermia, but that's not the case here.
Someone could be alive, lose body temperature, and not die. That can happen, can't it?
Yeah.
So if someone is in the cold, let's assume they're not dead for a second. They're in the snow, below freezing, not moving. Can that person lose body?
I know why it's doing that. Okay, I'm back. Go back a second. Yeah, I don't. Everything just went away.
Die.
Even before they become hypothermic.
Can you hear it?
Can they lose body temperature?
Well,
Can you hear the thing? Okay.
losing body temperature makes you hypothermic. Sure, they just lie there. They can become hypothermic and die.
Even before they become hypothermic, can they lose body temperature?
Even before you become hypothermic and you lose body temperature. That's what becoming hypothermic means.
Well, losing body temperature makes you hypothermic. Thermic is temperature and hypo means below. So your temperature goes down and you're hypothermic because it's going down.
And people can survive from being hypothermic if they get the right care.
Sure.
And so in that 5.5 hours, it is consistent with a person being outside in the cold and starting at 98.6 and ending at 80. That's consistent with being in the cold for 5.5 hours, isn't it?
For a dead body, yes. That's how a dead body would cool in a snow-covered cold environment.
And it could also be consistent with somebody who is alive for some time and then dies, correct?
I don't understand your question.
Somebody could be out in the cold, under the snow, sub-freezing. They could be alive for some time. The body temperature could drop. And then when they pass and die, their body temperature could continue to drop probably at a more rapid pace. That still fits within 5.5 hours, doesn't it, Dr. Laposata?
No.
Oh. Because if someone can drop 4 degrees of body temperature.
What does he mean it can drop faster? What? It'll drop at a more rapid pace. What?
In an hour.
A dead body.
Yes. It would only take about a little over 4 hours if it was at 4 degrees to go from 98.6 to 80. Yes?
Correct, yes. So he was exposed to that cold environment for 4 to 5 hours.
If somebody was alive for a couple of hours, it's a lower rate. Say they lose 3 degrees. And then
You don't lose 3 degrees as your life.
they lose body temperature at 4 degrees. That would
That's what
still
she said.
be consistent with a drop from 98.6 to 30 degrees,
No.
to 80 degrees, wouldn't it?
No, you were saying a dead body cools in a cold environment at maybe 3 to 4 degrees an hour, and that has nothing to do with a living body and how long they can stay at the body temperature.
Do you disagree that somebody could be alive, lose body temperature out in the cold, freezing temperature below 32? They could lose body temperature at a certain rate, then pass out, die, and then continue to lose body temperature. Is that possible?
Anything's possible. It's just what's important is what happened in this case.
I'm asking for your medical opinion, though, rather than to be an advocate. As far as your medical opinion.
So sustained, and I'll strike that.
As far as
Dr.
your,
Laposata,
Yes.
could you listen to the question, please?
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor.
as far as your medical experience, could somebody be alive, outside, in the cold, below 32 degrees, not moving, covered by snow, still alive, and lose body temperature?
Sure.
And then could they, after an hour, 2 hours, could they then die and continue to lose more body temperature?
Sure.
But not here.
You mentioned your opinion about.
That's not what he asked. He's trying. That's not. It still doesn't fit in the timeline, though. If you only, because she's saying you only lose like 1 or 2. If you're alive and your body's pumping, it's trying to stay warm. That's what hypothermia does. That's what shaking does. So you're only going to lose like 1 or 1 degree an hour, maybe 1.5. And you're not going to be able to fit that in the time frame. You're not going to drop from 98.6 down to 80. You're not, especially if there's 2 hours that you're still alive. That's what she's saying.
Injury by Mr. O'Keefe.
Then he gets her to answer, will your body drop in temperature if you're out in the snow? Yes. And then will your body continue to drop after you pass? Yes. Well, of course. But that's not the, oh, this guy is such a snake.
And at one point you said that his injury was inconsistent with a taillight, and you said because there was no damage from the bumper. Do you remember saying that?
I don't think I said it quite that way.
Okay. Do you remember how you said it?
No.
Do you remember discussing or raising the issue of a bumper as part of your equation, that the injury to Mr. O'Keefe was inconsistent with the injuries?
He has no injuries on him that are consistent with being hit by the back of the SUV. That includes the spoiler, that includes the bumper.
Okay, if we could play video E, please. I want to ask you, Dr. Laposata, have you seen this video before?
They're gonna do the blue paint video. Here we go.
The blue paint. Oh no.
Oh no, that's right. Never mind. Oh, it's Wolf's video. Okay.
No.
Thank you. You can take that down. Did you see anything in that video that would suggest any contact between that mannequin and the vehicle's bumper?
I'm going to see you at sidebar on this for just a minute, please.
What does this have to do with medical? Is she supposed to have a medical opinion about a mannequin? A mannequin is not actually a dead body, so this is really not proper
Right,
impeachment.
so- So we get
perfectly.
this video out.
Done
This is ridiculous. So
Yeah, be consistent.
Last bit of questioning of this witness and the video as it goes.
so now we have an instruction from the judge. All right.
After being that injury.
All right, so jurors, I am going to strike the last bit of questioning of this witness and the video as it goes to this witness.
Dr.
I know.
Laposata, after you received
That's
materials,
the rescue, Randy.
did you ever ask for any additional materials?
Let's see. I always make sure I have all the scene investigation, autopsy, x-rays until a couple weeks ago, so that was delayed.
That was newer?
Yes.
You said a medical examiner has to make a determination in 90 days. Is that the rule?
When you work in a medical examiner's office, when you get a deceased in, our national standards want us to have the autopsy report completed and all the associated tests done within 90 days.
Can investigations occur and the additional accumulation of evidence happen after that 90 days?
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Dr. Laposata.
Okay, so that was it. She just finally somebody that we got doggy dreams going on over there. You guys probably can't hear it, but you can see the jumping. Nope. He stopped. Doggy dreaming. And I forgot the name. Forgot to rename the camera. Oh no. Okay. So finally somebody stood up to him. I've been waiting for somebody to give him back what he's giving them. Oh, I know exactly. I do too. It's always like, are you chasing something? Are you chasing the other dogs? Because, you know, there's the movements and the barking. And it's funny when you see them. Funny when you see them dreaming. Okay, so AJ comes back and does a really good job. So what's funny is Bev says, well, you know, I'll let you get into the station club fire and the audit. And then AJ, you can come back and rehabilitate her later. There was no rehabilitation even needed. She didn't need rehabilitation after that. She just whacked those things. She just dodged those things. That was a Chuck Norris type thing. And Andrew even says later that this is one of her favorite witnesses of all time. And I think she is just what this case needed. She is what the defense needed. This was an amazing, and I hope Dr. Russell, oh my God, I hope Dr. Russell was watching this because she's already done testifying. She doesn't need to. I hope that Dr. Russell got to watch this and laugh at every bit of it. Okay, so, all right. So she said, I'm going to strike that, right? Then they went on and she gives a question. So she struck she struck the video as it pertained to this witness, to Dr. Laposata. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at what Sue said. So, okay, so let me go. All right. Okay, so Judge strikes last bit of testimony from this juror. Brennan is done with cross unless he hands Jackson a post-it. Jackson goes to the podium. The court officer who is with the jurors interrupts and speaks to the judge. Then judge comes back, and this is what we're about to get to in this instruction. So one of the witnesses went to the court officer and was confused on what that actually meant. What do you mean you stricken it? This is something that's already in evidence. How can you strike it? So this is the explanation from the judge. Okay, so actually, there goes the court officer right there. Check it out. Watch. He's the one that's over by the jury. So watch. There he goes. So, oh, damn it. Thank you. God damn it. Thank you. All right. So Hank gets done. I try. All right. So we go back as he gets up
Still
to
waiting
go
to get
do
that,
his cross.
that homicide finding, are you? You're just hammering home that she hasn't made the finding yet.
That is the court officer. That's the court officer that is going up to the judge to say, hey,
An investigation later.
we have a juror that's confused.
Jurors, when I strike something, that means disregard it. And what I've struck through this witness, the video that you just saw and some of the testimony means that if it's in evidence, it's in evidence, but it is not part of your consideration with this witness. Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
May I proceed? Thank you. Dr. Laposata, you were just asked a series of questions about body cooling, correct?
Yes.
Does a body, as it's cooling, does it know if it's indoors or outdoors?
No.
If there's a very cold environment, be it indoor or outdoor environment, would it still cool?
Oh, absolutely.
And it would cool would it cool at the rates that you earlier described?
Yes.
Even if that indoors was cold?
Absolutely.
Like an unheated garage, dead body would still cool at the same temperature on things like rigor mortis. I think so. I would definitely be interested in how that factors in certainty about things, right? Like this chemical reactions. Now this makes sense to me. So We're able to get more people coming over to the dark
All right,
side.
what are we doing here?
Recognize, maybe that's just me like fetishizing science or something like that. I'm looking at it from over here in my great, it depends career of the law. And
For a quick second.
Okay, so I want to show you something else. And I'm going to remember to share this time. I promise I'm going to share. Okay, this is Judd Welcher. This is day 23 of the trial. Let's listen.
You are aware, Dr. Welcher, that Mr. O'Keefe suffered no fractures of any kind in his hand, correct?
So there were no fractures noted in the autopsy report, but they didn't actually x-ray, from the records I've seen, either his hand or his arm. So there was, at least according to the autopsy report, no overt fractures, but the x-rays I saw, none of them were the arm, and the autopsy report said no sternum, spine, I think it said torso. They didn't say that there were no fractures there.
Was there any evidence in the medical records that you reviewed of any indication whatsoever of a fracture in Mr. O'Keefe's hand?
No.
Was there any indication whatsoever in any of the medical records you reviewed that there was a fracture of any bone in the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe?
Not that I saw. Again, it wasn't x-rayed.
Was there any...
It wasn't x-rayed. Well, what do you know? What do you know? Damn it! Okay, so I suck. All right, so let's go.
See you, and then I'll put them on an overhead. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Do you recognize this document?
I
Yes,
know.
do.
How do you recognize it?
I recognize it by the medical examiner identification of Mr. O'Keefe, and I recognize the x-ray of the right hand, the right wrist, the right femur, and I can also...
Yeah, the great skull girls of Karen's trial. I mean, these are huge.
tell by the R designation here that that's the right side.
Yes, we go from there were no x-rays taken of the arm to...
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
I recognize it by the medical examiner identification of Mr. O'Keefe, and I recognize the x-ray of the right hand, the right wrist, the right femur, and I can also tell by the R designation here that that's the right side of the body.
Is this what you reviewed?
If there is, so there's still a sequestration order. There's still... So Judd did not have these. So that's the issue. Juddy. Juddy, you have an issue, my friend. You have a real big issue. You either had the x-rays and ignored the x-ray, or the Commonwealth did not provide you with the x-ray. There is one of the two is the reason, and neither of these are great. Neither of these are wonderful outcomes. So I'm curious to see what's happening. We're going to see that here very shortly within the next day or so.
In coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning injuries to his right hand.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the arm, there's no injury to them. We see the pelvis bone, there's no injury to that bone. They're perfectly normal, and there's no abnormal soft tissue swelling. It's a normal right arm.
Thank you. I may have this marked as next to order.
That may obviate the need to put it up, right?
It could.
So, all right, let's see. Did we get
We're gonna start with Rentschler or not?
and
Coming.
Line C.
Dr. Laposata, that's all I have for you. Thank you for coming.
Anything, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Anything, Mr. Brennan? No, thank you. I'm done. I got so beat up. My nose hurts. My face hurts. I don't want any more of this.
All right, Dr. Laposata, you are awesome. Thank you, Your Honor.
She whooped him. She whooped him. Oh my God. So then we go sidebar. Then we actually get into Dr. Rentschler today. So let's get a little bit of Wrenchy here. Let me get my thing back. Show transcript. So basically, a lot of this was just background. So
development for private and governmental entities.
What's your current title?
I'm a
all right, hang on. I keep hitting the wrong damn thing. Go back and
spell your last name for us, please.
Dr. Andrew John Rentschler, Rentschler.
So what do you do for a living?
I'm a biomechanist, a biomechanical engineer, and an accident reconstructionist.
Where do you work?
I work for a company called ARCA LLC.
Tell us a little bit about ARCA. What is ARCA?
ARCA is an engineering consulting firm. So we do litigation type work, both civil and criminal, where we look at, for instance, I do biomechanics. So I look at injury causation in different types of events, motor vehicle accidents, pedestrian, automobile incidents, sports-related injuries, industrial accidents. We also do accident reconstruction, as well as all types of really forensic type engineering. And we also do R&D, research and development, for private and governmental entities.
What's your current title?
I'm a vice president and director of biomechanics for the Midwest Division.
The director position that you hold, that's the official position at ARCA?
That's correct, yes, sir.
How are you ARCA's senior biomechanist?
I'm one of them, yes.
And how long have you held the position of director of biomechanics and human factors?
It's been at least 5 years. I don't recall exactly how long.
What exactly is it biomechanist or biomechanist?
Biomechanist, yeah.
All right, I'll get it right by the time we're finished. What is a biomechanist? What do you do?
So a biomechanist really looks at the human body, and we look at the response of the human body to forces and accelerations. We apply traditional engineering, but to the human body. So a mechanical engineer, for instance, might look at a piece of steel, and you know the dimensions and size of the steel. If you apply a force in a certain direction with a certain magnitude, that steel will bend, and eventually it'll break. Was a biomechanist or biomechanical engineer, I do the same thing, but I look at the human body. How much force has to be applied in what direction to get a specific type of injury, whether it's a fracture of your humerus, a concussion, an vertebral disc injury. Any type of injury has what we call an injury mechanism. So we look at the response of how the body reacts to forces in different environments. Ultimately, our hope is to actually help prevent and mitigate accidents. Motor vehicle incidents, we look at the design of airbags and seatbelts, sporting equipment, how can we reduce concussions and injuries associated with that. So ultimately, we try to figure out how to make the environment and the world safer for people in whatever type of interaction you might have.
Is that sometimes called injury causation analysis?
It is. That's one aspect of it. Injury causation analysis is looking at how an injury occurs. So if someone sustains an injury, as a biomechanist, I can look at the events surrounding that incident and determine how the injury occurred. Now, how someone was positioned, how much force had to have been applied to certain parts of their body to actually produce a given injury.
Why is injury causation analysis important in the broader field of biomechanics? Why do you want to know the causation of certain injuries?
Well, like I just said, our main goal and interest is to really mitigate and prevent injuries from occurring. So in order to do that, you have to know how they occur. You have to know, for instance, hockey, we do a lot of work with the NHL, how certain injuries occur, cervical injuries, concussions, shoulder injuries. So if your intent is to prevent injuries in certain settings and situations, you have to study how the body reacts, how those injuries are created, and then you can determine or attempt to determine how to prevent them from occurring in different events and situations.
What sort of contracts or commissions does ARCA routinely engage in?
We have a number of different contracts. We've worked in the past with the United States military. I helped design what we call the energy absorbing seat for the MRAP vehicles.
Hold on 1 second, Dr. Rentschler. Okay.
For the MRAP, which are the mine-resistant, ambush-protected, armor-plated vehicles that they had over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the issue there, work with the Department of Player Safety there, the National Hockey League, the movement of the vehicle, and help protect the soldier spine. We also, as I said, do a lot of work with the NHL. We work with the Department of Player Safety there, the National Hockey League. We look at the equipment, we look at helmets, trying to help prevent concussions, skate guards, how to...
So this guy's a badass. He's just a badass. Okay, so let's go ahead and remember all of the hubbub about the hybrid 3 arm and the 50 percentile arm, and why would you use that arm when there's a 95 percentile arm? Well, let's look at it here.
of player interaction at that part of the rink.
Hockey players tend to be pretty big guys, right?
They do, yes.
You said you used the 50 percentile hybrid 3 as a crash test dummy in ATD to do your work in furtherance of the NHL contractor commission, correct?
That's correct.
Did you need to use a hybrid 3 that was the same size as these big, tall, 6'4", 230-pound hockey players?
No, not at all.
Why not?
There's a 95th percentile male dummy, which not many people have or use. The 50th percentile male is basically the gold standard for crash test dummies. And you're probably most familiar with it if you see automotive.
I said the other day that it was that Brennan got on this thing about the 50 percentile arm and how it's lighter, and the 20, you got to reduce it by 26% and everything. And I said that it was purposeful that Dr. Wolf let that go. It was absolutely purposeful. Dr. Wolf knew all of this, right? But he set this up. They set this up.
Motive manufacturers and the ads on TV where they put the crash test dummy in the car and run them into walls and flip them over. Well, they use the 50th percentile for all of those tests. And then they scale the actual injury assessment reference values to different size people. So they record the force off of that. And they might say, well, for the 50th percentile average person, you can sustain 180 Gs of acceleration to the head before you see a severe injury. And then they'll scale that and say, well, the hybrid 3 has to record, say, 300 Gs before someone twice that size gets hurt. So you just use one size dummy and then you scale that to whatever size person you're looking at.
Is that undertaking of mathematical scaling, is that an industry standard in biomechanics?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's set forth in NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration. They set, well, the government sets the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, and that's all the crash tests that vehicles have to go through. And during those tests, they have to ensure that the values on the dummy, on the head, on the neck, on the spine, on the arms are below certain values to ensure that they're safe at specific speeds. And they scale, they have
I just think his rebuttal witness is Judd Welcher. Blue paint guy.
Certain papers, a lot of papers actually, which talk about scaling the values for different size people.
Is that an accepted methodology in the scientific community?
Oh, it certainly is, yes, sir.
Dr. Rentschler, do you specialize in any particular research and analysis at ARCA to evaluate the relationships between crash injuries and crash forces?
I do, yes.
What about kinematics?
Kinematics is one of the specialties, yes, sir.
Fancy word. Probably nobody knows. I didn't know it before I met some of the folks involved in this case. What does kinematics mean?
Kinematics is just motion of the human body. So it's looking at how the body moves in different situations. Whether you're in a vehicle and it hits a wall, how does your body move and moves forward? Will it load into the seatbelt? Does the airbag deploy? Or if you're a pedestrian and your strike mechanism, in order to determine how it occurs, we have to look at tolerance. How much force can the body withstand before you start to see a
for an outfit called Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation and Biomechanical Engineering.
Oh, basically, we get on that this guy is a badass. So let's go ahead and
he did, yes, he sustained a subdural hemorrhage.
So this was damn it. I keep hitting the go big button here.
Reviewed initially when you began your analysis?
I did, yes.
Can you describe what you noted in terms of Mr. O'Keefe's injuries?
There were really just two basically different areas of injury. There was injury to the head. There was a laceration on the rear kind of right occipital region of the head.
Oops. Pardon me, guys. Trying to move stuff around
which
here.
Resulted in fractures, an occipital skull fracture, which is the rear part of your skull,
an occipital,
as well as basilar skull fractures that propagated up through the skull. And then there were injuries which were noted or diagnosed to be superficial abrasions along his right arm.
What is a subscapular hemorrhage?
Subscapular is,
yes.
Yeah, with respect to the head, is
yes,
that, yes,
as it relates to the head.
Yes, well, so when we talk about there's subarachnoid, he did, yes, bruising along the eyes, basically.
What does bilateral mean? Both?
Bilateral means left and right, correct.
Did you note
determining what the diagnosed injuries are. And then you have to determine the kinematics and the kinetics associated with a certain event. So how did the person move? How was their body moved? Did they interact with anything? And how did that result in loading or force being applied? Impact to the back of the head.
Who we were?
Initially, we did not. No, initially, I personally
looking
at the injuries or what may or may not have caused the damage to that vehicle.
When you and your teammates undertook this analysis, did you even know who we were?
Initially, we did not. No, initially, I personally didn't know anything about the case, and we were asked not to do any research or to look up anything about it. We were given certain parameters, certain information, and that was it.
Oh,
did you follow those instructions?
I did, yes.
The undertaking, the analysis that you did, was it in keeping with the accepted methodology or methodologies in your field of did you ultimately reach some opinions and conclusions based on that initial investigation or analysis?
I did, and we did it at ARCA, yes. Myself, Dr. Wolf, and Mr. Klein did.
Did you reach any opinions or conclusions with regard to the force required to produce the occipital skull fracture that you noted with Mr. O'Keefe, his head being struck by the rear tail lamp of the subject Lexus?
I did, yes.
Tell me what those opinions and conclusions were.
Well, again, we determined by looking at research and tolerance values that it would take about 1,400 to 1,600 pounds of force to cause an occipital skull fracture. Now, we were tasked with looking at, again, could that result from impact with the car? So one of the things we did is we took a head from a dummy, basically, that's instrumented with accelerometers. When you look at the position and configuration of the occupant.
So basically, originally, they just looked at, did he get hit in the head with the car? So
on Mr. O'Keefe's body.
Yes, I believe my conclusion.
Did you reach any opinions or conclusions regarding the abrasions on the right arm that you noted earlier on Mr. O'Keefe's body?
Yes, I believe my conclusions with respect to the abrasions are that it was inconsistent with contact to the taillight, and that not only that those injuries are inconsistent, but you would expect additional injuries, likely fractures to the hand and or the forearm, depending on the actual speed of the vehicle.
Other than the expectation that you would see fractures or other damage to the arm, what was the basis for your opinion that the linear abrasions would not result from impact with a non-damaged taillight traveling in reverse?
Well, you have to look at the kinematics associated with that, and that in order to get just superficial abrasions, that doesn't take a significant amount of force, but essentially that to have an arm contact the rear of the car, and we weren't really given any theory of how the arm contacted the car. So initially, we weren't privy to any theories or allegations of how this may occur. So just generally speaking, looking at the arm, how it would contact the car, and subsequent movement and interaction with the light cover, my opinion was that the injuries would be inconsistent, or the injuries that Mr. O'Keefe sustained on his right arm and didn't sustain would be inconsistent with actual interaction with the taillight.
Doctor, were your opinions and conclusions, along with those of your colleagues, reduced to a report?
They were, yes, sir.
Was that report, to your knowledge, ultimately turned over to both the defense and the Commonwealth in this case?
To my knowledge, it was, yes, sir.
And then who was able to hire you?
I'm going to change gears for a second and bring us forward to the spring of 2024, after February of 2024. Were you asked to conduct further testing in furtherance of your potential testimony in this trial?
We were, yes, sir.
And we provided additional materials from the defense in furtherance of your potential testimony and your testing?
We were yes, we were provided additional material with respect to, yes, the theory of how this may have occurred and how Mr. O'Keefe may have sustained his injuries.
Included in the materials that you were provided in anticipation of your testimony in this case, in this trial. Were you provided anything from a company called Aperture?
We were, yes.
What were you provided from Aperture?
We were provided a written report from Aperture, a PowerPoint presentation, about 140 some pages from Aperture, and then a file material, I believe, what was reviewed and the results of some testing that Aperture had conducted with respect to this case.
Was it your understanding that the Aperture PowerPoint was authored by a particular individual?
Yes, sir.
Who authored that PowerPoint, as far as you knew it?
As far as I'm aware, it was Dr. Judson Welcher.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
Okay, so I think that was it for the day. Let's see. Yes, all right.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. The State of Rhode Island versus Michael Patino transcript or whatever she was giving me. Any objection to that? 23, the word measurements, I think, is perhaps the only word there. 24, 31, 32, 33, 34, 46, 47, separately pursuant to what will be an upcoming evidentiary ruling on whether foundation has been made. If you could separately have a way to exclude, if it becomes appropriate based on whatever ruling based on the foundation that you're going to attempt to put, slides 9 to 23. Now, as I said to you at sidebar, once you do this, or if you talk to the Commonwealth, if there's no objection to some of those numbered slides that I said needed to be edited, if the Commonwealth agrees that they come in, you can go ahead and put them in because I would allow them if it's by agreement.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, so they're basically going to try and limit his PowerPoint, which we'll get into the PowerPoint tomorrow. All right, this is it. This is the last witness for the Commonwealth. This is the last go. Dr. Rentschler is the final show for the Commonwealth. Then we'll have like a couple people talking about DNA because I guess Hank realizes, oh, I probably should get my, DNA actually in evidence. Since I've said there was DNA, I should probably make sure that's in evidence. So we got that witness, and then we've got the rebuttal of Judd. I'm curious to see what Judd comes up with. I think, and then there was something about Alessi being excused. Let's see. Excused from, Oh shit, there's 50. Yeah, so basically Alessi is going to be able to, once he gets the report from Welcher, he's going to be able to go over it. I know. Oh shit. Yeah, I was trying to. Damn it. Oh, let's see. Alessi, maybe. Nope. Okay, I don't know where it's at. It's basically said once they get the report from Welcher, he is going to oh yeah, and so the exhibits, yes, so there is a motion filed by the defense, and I think this is basically for appeal. I don't think she's going to act on it. She's going to say my ruling was fine. Yesterday, when she did every single lawyer that reviewed this looked at that statement after Brennan did this stupid stuff with the t-shirt. Let's just look at one of them, because I caught Aussie Overlord right when he was coming home reviewing this case. So I want to show you this. When she did that let's see if this was it. Let me get the transcript up. You know, she said, "Oh, I'm going to say all this stuff," and then she just came out and said, "The holes in the shirt were created by the criminalist when she cut it," and that was all she said. It's like, let's see. All right, let me find that. When Ozzy saw this, he's like, what was that? That's still during the argument. And then, stuff like, she said it couldn't have come from the events of January 29th. So here was Aussie Overlord driving home, watching this trial, and here was his reaction to the actual instruction.
So, jurors, I instruct you that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt back on May 18th, 2023. Okay? So, I know you're...
I'm sorry, what? That's it? What the fuck? That's not even close to what was stipulated. That's not even close to what was agreed. That's not even close to what you wrote down. Are you serious right now? Didn't even mention that she didn't even say, this is what was shown during the questioning. These are the holes that you cannot conclude were caused by the accident. What the fuck?
Yep. Aussie Overlord with bringing it.
Okay.
Which is all of us.
No,
all of us are like...
No, not okay. I'm done with this bullshit. I'm really, really done with this bullshit. The prosecution openly lies in the middle of the trial. She sweeps it under the rug and does nothing about it. Where the fuck are your grave concerns now, Bev? Oh my god, and this woman's going to continue failing upwards as well.
Oh.
This is absolutely reprehensible.
It That just says it all right there. That just said everything. It's all of that. It's reprehensible. It's what, how are you getting away with that? I mean, what even was that ruling? That she said nothing of what she even agreed to. She made it so weak and then immediately mentions lunch right after it. Like it's just, she's just blowing over this. Like he lied in open court. The dude lied. And it's just like, you know, this thing happened, and just, you know, just the holes were made by the sweat, you know, by the criminalist. Like, and so they filed a motion. Like I said, the motion is most likely for, let's see if I can find it real quick here. Oh, God damn it. Man, X needs to fix their fucking search. That's all I'm going to say. They need to fix their freaking search. They really do. Because this is just awful. So basically, they just said, you need to make another motion because that one was not good enough. You need to say what was actually said. And yeah, you need to say what you were going to say. And then you actually need to put in to evidence the pictures that you said you were going to put into evidence. And she did that today. She did say that those will be in evidence. So I mean, openly lie, mislead the hell out of the jury, and just get away with it. It's no big deal. What are you doing? I don't even know, man. It's a lot. I mean, it's the stuff that this woman gets away with is incredible. Absolutely incredible what she gets away with. I don't know. I am going to don't forget to like the stream, please. Thank you. We got some likes on there. I appreciate it. And all right, tomorrow could be tomorrow with a little bit Thursday, or we could see tomorrow be the end of testimony. They said at the end of the day, all right, let's go back. Actually,
Honor said would be admitted based upon the issue that we had with regard to the Exhibit 88. Your Honor said.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, so they would say, yeah, and those were the exhibits that, she said, yeah, I'll put those in evidence, and she did. Okay, so.
Then we'll figure out where we are Thursday. It seems that the case may be ready to go to the jury Friday.
Oh, you think?
Maybe Monday at the latest. But does that seem like a fair estimate to you, Mr. Brennan?
Ready Friday.
Okay. All right, so we'll see. Okay. All right, thank you. We'll see everybody tomorrow morning.
We could see this case go to the jury on Friday. We can have closing ceremonies on Friday. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. I am going to go get some food. Thank you. Did I say closing ceremonies? Good Lord. I did. I heard Kat laugh. And I realized why. Because I said closing ceremonies. This is not the Olympics. This is the stupid Olympics. This is kind of like a version of the Olympics if the Olympics were being held in the world of idiocracy. So this would be like the stupid Olympics. But no, it is closing arguments. God, I think I said closing ceremonies a couple times. Closing arguments probably on Friday. So we will see if that actually happens. So, okay. Thank you, everybody. What are we going to go out with tonight? We're going to go out with Agent Walker. Set his outro. Agent Walker from the show Mistakes Were Made, still on track for a July 4th release. We're going to have our big premiere on probably the 12th, I think is what it's looking like. So the 12th of July, we're going to have a big party here in town, but July 4th will be the first episode release. And I'm looking forward to that. And as soon as this trial's over, I can get back to doing editing, which we'll do some editing streams again. I think those are fun. But yeah, we'll edit the show live on the air a couple nights a week. I won't be on every night, but I'll be on a bit. So anyway, all right. Enjoy Agent Walker, and I will see you tomorrow.
Introducing Agent Charles Walker from the Federal Enforcement Division, or Fed.
Misinformation is getting to be a very serious problem. It really interferes with what we are trying to do.
And what are you trying to do?
Excellent question. I'm afraid that's classified. You don't have the clearance.
Agent Walker is always a team player and appreciates the efforts of his colleagues.
You know those bum idiots. This is all them. We had a solid case.
Agent Walker is a master interrogator and would never take things out of context to influence an interview.
My cousin Mindy is the bomb. I'm just seeing a lot of incendiary and violent language here. Somebody could see a call to action in these words.
A call to action for what?
Well, you tell us. They're your words. You wrote them.
Agent Walker, a calm, patient presence in the fight against misinformation.
These people can't even do stuff that's actually good enough for government work.